Hello, family. Welcome. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. You are tuning into the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and all the social media platforms that we could connect today. We are so excited to have a special guest today. I hope everybody's doing well. You guys have been waiting for about 24 hours and some of you 48 hours. So thank you so much for joining the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. Greetings, royals, greetings, beloved, grand rising, joyous rising, good evening, good afternoon, good night. I see you all checking in from all over. I see Pennsylvania in the house. Hello, Linda. I see who's that? Canada in the house, upstate New York, Lake Milton, Ohio. Hi, Brother Jamie or Sister Jamie. DJ Johnson is here. Yes, I was running a little late, but thank God I got everything together. Hello from the who is that? Beautiful state of New Hampshire. Greetings. It's so good to see everybody here. Check on in. We have over 200 people in the chat waiting to hear from this amazing guest. So I'm taking my time. Bring your notebooks, get your pencils, get your pads. This is a phenomenal speaker. He has a PhD in jurisprudence. So you know the man knows law, not just law as it had been with admiralty law, but law according to the Republic. So he's also an artist. And I'm going to tell you, just read a little bit about his bio, and then we're going to bring him on. I am so excited to have this amazing gentleman who's been telling us that all this stuff was going to happen, that the old system and the old guard was crashing. But a lot of people didn't believe him. Now he's here and we see it happening. He's also going to talk about the 5 pillars of our law. The 5 pillars of the Moors, they say, and how this is applicable to what's going on. So let me just read a little bit of his bio as you all check in and say hello. Get your pencils, your papers, your water, a glass of wine if you indulge a little bit, darlings, some tea, some coffee. Mama Kia has her water, and be ready to go because we're moving into a new era, a golden era, the age of Aquarius, and a time of our sovereignty, peace, prosperity, and freedom. So we're going to have Aseer, the Duke of Tears, Aseer Cordoba Bay. He is a multimedia artist, a natural historian, a published author and writer with a PhD in jurisprudence, and astrologer, born Prince Charles E.L. Rogers L. Aseer started doing art at the age of 4. He began taking part in classes at the Brooklyn Museum at age 7. Around the age of 10, he began print modeling, and at the same year, he drew his first full comic book. He attended art and design high school where he studied many techniques, but he didn't graduate. Instead, he got his GED and he went into business for himself. He went later on to get his education, formal education. He started Morally Correct Mediums, a subsidiary of his father's publicity company called Rogers Artist Media. He worked on logos and bios for many groups like Eric B. and Rakim, Dougie Fresh, Dead Presidents. Y'all know who these are if you are really into hip hop, right? And a myriad of other musicians. Aseer worked as a contributing writer for the Source magazine, where he wrote articles under the name Destiny. Destiny. One of his most famous articles was called Booster Shots, which achieved critical acclaim. After gaining knowledge of self by 1997 through 1998, he traveled abroad exhibiting his artwork at galleries or while studying jurisprudence. Wow. After returning to Brooklyn, he went to work as an after-school teacher for New York State Board of Education, the MAP program, and Catholic Charities. Aseer taught Morris science and history at community centers and various colleges such as LIU and Prince George County Community College. He's a regular speaker at high schools in New York and Miami, Florida. Aseer became a member of the MST of A and was appointed a sheik. Wow. He began an intense study of history and had a major breakthrough around 1998. In 2003, he was anointed the Duke of Tears by an Ashanti priestess empress, Nekemwe King, PBUH. Aseer then embarked on the groundbreaking podcast called Super Heru, Heru Radio on Blog Talk Radio, and it lasted for 7 years. A multi-talented artist, Aseer and Selena, his wife, recorded 2 albums. I think it's his wife. Let's just say Aseer and Selena recorded 2 albums under the name Team Cordoba Aseer, and also wrote a beautiful comic book called The Dark Skull 418, and you can purchase that on Amazon. This book had, at the time that of this publication, sold over 50,000 ebooks and received a 5-star rating on Amazon. It's still at a 5-star rating. I looked it up. Aseer is currently working on various projects to uplift fallen humanity. Doesn't that sound like what we do over here? While raising his family and promoting Moorish cultural existence as a viable lifestyle. Now, family, without any further ado, please allow me to welcome Aseer, the Duke of Tears. Welcome.
Peace, sister. How are you? Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Peace, everybody that's tuning in. I really appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir. It is my pleasure. Now, can you first tell me what Aseer, the Duke of Tears means? We have almost 500 people in the chat. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Yes, and show Brother Aseer some love. I brought him here away from his family. He should be working right now, but I put his Cash App down here in the ticker. The brother is going to talk to us about law and returning to the Republic. I'm so excited. So let's show the brother some love. This is the Cash App $DS418, and give him some blessings. Shower him some monetary gifts, because over here we believe in that. Amen. And he's the sheik. So okay.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it for real.
Yes, sir. What does that mean, Aseer, the Duke of Tears?
Aseer there's a chapter in the Bible, Samuel 9:9, that says before time, the prophets of old were called Aseers. So that's where that comes from. And then the Duke of Tears, Dukal. The term Duke comes from the old Moorish term Dukal, which means like an appointed wazir, or someone in charge of a royal house. And then Tears, from what Empress Nkweke told me, bless the dead, represented different levels. Like Tears represents levels. Okay. So when she said you're the Duke of Tears, she basically said that, because I study so many things, I understand a lot of different levels of society. So she wanted to kind of encapsulate it all in one turn, or title, I should say. So it kind of stuck from there,
Yes, sir. And people want me to make sure I acknowledge that you are also a husband and father.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I couldn't do it. I've been married to my queen for it'll be my son is 25. It'll be about 26, 27 years. Wow. So I'm blessed in that regard. I wouldn't be able to do what I did, or what I'm able to do, without her. Yes. As well as, my children. My eldest is 25. My daughter, she's 23 right now. And then my youngest, Amor, he's going to be 16 in August. So it's just wow how fast time moves into the future,
Yes, sir.
But I'm blessed to be able to still have them here and be able to be in their lives. And, I just give thanks as much as possible, because our families have been so attacked, mine included, over the years, not just by the powers that be, but people that look like us, Yes. So we definitely want to give respect and honors to the traditional so-called nuclear family, because that's what's really under attack right now, in regards to what color you are. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
A man and a woman who know your role as a man and woman, who is striving to rear your heirs as much as possible. You definitely are, an enemy, technically an enemy of the deep state. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. So Aseer, the reason why I asked, what is the proper title for you? I don't want to just call you by your first name.
You can just say Aseer, it's fine.
Okay. Aseer, and you've been on the show before. and I met your lovely wife. So
Indeed.
I feel very honored to have you. Before we came online, and the reason why I called you to come on the show, we talked a little bit about this, and I want you to explain to the family what's going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes with, all these government overturning of, monumental cases.
Mhm.
Um, I think the latest two rulings by the Supreme Court was one that granted President Trump was granted immunity, I
Right.
believe, and the second one, I hear some noise. I don't know if that's my.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard that. As soon as you started. Let me see. Okay, it's good now.
Okay. So yes, the President Trump being granted immunity. I hear it.
Yeah, right when you start talking. I noticed that. You know how they be doing. I don't
I
know.
do. I'll stop in a minute to let you talk.
Hmm.
And then the second one, the Supreme Court overturning the Chevron case,
Right.
the Chevron deference, and saying that all these federal agencies are creating their own laws.
Hmm.
We're not supposed to be doing that, and that whenever we would challenge them, the judges would defer back to these agencies and say, "Well, they're the experts; they can create their own laws." Well, the
Right.
Supreme Court said that is unconstitutional.
That's right.
All this stuff is going on right now, but I want you to please explain to us what that means for us. Is it really the public restored? I don't know. You tell me from your standpoint, having a PhD in jurisprudence and studying and understanding and understanding Moore's law. What's happening?
Hmm. Um, it's definitely something to kind of look at in kind of like a bird's eye view, because it's like a lot of moving parts happening at the same time. And essentially, the America itself, right, and the so-called American citizens, who are those who are here by birth, you know what I'm saying, and declaration, um, are not is a constitutional republic.
Okay.
And the only type of governmental structure that is guaranteed by that constitution is that of a republican form of government.
Hmm.
A republican form of government, or this form of government, came out of many years of the consolidation of different foreign powers that were jockeying for a position of a primary dominance in what we would call the North Central and South American old empire. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The very term America can be traced back to not to Amerigo Vespucci, but
Hmm.
thousands of years before him, and comes to us from the old Berbic Libyan, so-called Latin, as they say, term Amaruca, right? Which is old, as they say, Moorish dialectical inference to represent the extreme west, which basically means everything west of what they refer to now today as Morocco over there, all the way over here would represent what's called the Al Maghreb Al Aqsa, which means the Morocco of the farthest west, or what we call the empire.
Okay.
And the way that we did things over here wound up consolidating into the fracturing of that empire into separate states, into confederacies, and from those confederacies into states. So we went from empires, kingdoms, and dominions into nations, countries, and states. And then that consolidation or that contraction led to things like the Articles of Confederation, the Articles of Association, the Bill of Rights, which then led to the preamble to the seventh article, which then led to the greater so-called Constitution, from the seventh article to the 13th and 14th Amendment eventually, and then eventually all the way up to the 25th and the Supremacy Clause. So um, the our contribution to the country uh, had was not in dispute. You know what I mean? It only came in dispute after the coup d'état happened in 1871 with this thing called the Act of Congress, which led, unfortunately, into after the Reconstructional period, which they lined it all up, and then by the Act of Congress in 1871, by then taking the whole country and putting the country under the jurisdiction of Rome, which today we call Washington D.C. Because prior to it being called Washington D.C., it was referred to as Rome, because that's essentially what it was. People can look that up. And the land that it was dedicated to was the land that eventually became Washington D.C., which again prior to that was called Rome, was then consolidated under the foreign powers that we refer to as European. However, at the time of our fall, let's say between 1492 and let's say 1492 to about 1666. In 1492, there was no Europe. There was no Spain. There was no France. There was none of those places existed. You understand? All of those places that we now denote today as European nations were themselves just so-called Roman territories that reconsolidated themselves as European states. You see what I'm saying? Once the greater empire again had fallen, and now all of the stuff that was already here was now being reabsorbed and reconstructed under this new moniker. You see what I'm saying? Of Europe. When back in the days that was just West Asia, or what they call Eurasia. You see what I'm saying? So by the time we get to this time period here, and let's say after Reconstruction, after the Act of Congress, after they created the terrorist organizations like the KKK and all of that stuff to help further consolidate their power base to go along with the new identity that they were giving the so-called Americans, which used to mean all of the copper-colored people, you know what I'm saying, that were here from time immemorial, that was now being redone to act as the mask for the new so-called Americans that were being brought over here on boats. You see what I'm saying? And brought through Ellis Island and places like that. These new people would be referred to as Americans. And then we now, who already were protected under the rights of the original constitutional republic from the preamble to the 7th article, were now taken from that part of it and then put under the foreign part of it, which was the 13th and the 14th Amendment. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
And gave us a different complexion in the whole thing. So in the hierarchy of things, you have the nationals, then you have the citizens, then you have the subjects, then you have the aliens. You see what I'm saying? In terms of American nationality and how it was structured. So what they did was they took the nationals and made the nationals aliens, and they took the aliens and made them subject citizen to the nation. You see what I'm saying? Then they took the nation itself and then hijacked it and put it under the auspices of a foreign government, aka occupational government, that we call the United States, which again was the new reorganized Rome, which again now was functioning as a democracy on the republic for which it stands. You understand?
Yes, I do.
So based on that, this is why they want to always talk about democracy, democracy, democracy. However, if you read the Constitution, if you read the Bill of Rights, if you read the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the preamble, the Articles of Association, the Articles of Confederation, if you read any of that stuff, there's no mention of democracy at all in any of it. You understand? It's never mentioned because we're not founded under the principles of democracy. Democracy is just another way of saying mob rule. You know what I mean? Majority rules. So if the majority of people are stupid and the minority of people are smart, then that means that the smart people now fall under the rule of the dumb people. And that's where they want to say that you voted for that. But that's not really it. See, in the republic, in the democracy, you vote. In the republic, you elect. You see what I'm saying? That's why presidents are elected. You see what I'm saying? But what they're doing is they're taking nationals and then putting them and then trying them into democracy and then taking the aliens and then bringing them into the republic. You see what I'm saying? It's a constant shell game. It's a
Mhm.
constant moving one citizen and flipping it for another. So that's what the whole
Mhm.
shell game that they've been running since 1871 has been about. That's why they have the ability to take all of the so-called tax-paying money, which is an oxymoron, being that taxes, they fought the war to not pay taxes. You dig what I'm saying? So now they're trying to get everybody to pay taxes, which then shows you that there's been a hijack and there's a grift going on. You dig? So this is why they can take everybody's money and send it to other foreign countries where they're laundering that money through transnational corporations, which are also agencies of the Roman imperial dominion, that's all being functioned and funneled through all of these rat holes like Ukraine or Afghanistan or Israel or places like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's really the issue, and why they don't want anybody who's functioning from a Republican form of view, not a Republican Party, which again was founded by the original man and woman here in America. Because if you ask yourself, like, how is it that in 1864, according to their history, all of these original men, so-called melanated men, so-called black slaves, were slaves, and then the next year in 1865, they are now all free, and now they all have a Republican Party that know how to vote and write laws and do legislation and all this other stuff. Like, how they do that in a year? Like, that don't make sense. How is it that the country is how is it you've been in bondage for 400 years, but the country's only 225 years old? Like, how is it that Morocco over there didn't become Morocco until 1956, but then we got a treaty with the Empire of Morocco from 1787. Where's Morocco between 1787 and 1956? Like, you know what I'm saying? So because they can never answer none of these questions, they want to keep us wrapped up in the racial grift and the colorable law system, in which we have to be colors in order for it to quantify our worth. See what I'm saying? So that's really what the issue is. All of this is functioning under colorable law. But because of things like the Chevron deference being overturned, and things like that, all of that's coming to an end. So they got to now move the goalposts back further and then create something else for people to be scared of, you know?
Such as?
Such as what is this thing? Proposal 2025. That's the new boogeyman that they're giving to the original man and original woman in America to make them think that, and not just them, all of the other people who have been given United States citizenship. Because that's the thing, like, to be a United States citizen, you can't be an American national. To be an American national, you can't necessarily be a United States citizen. However, you can receive the rights and you can receive the privileges of the citizens, but you really maintain your rights as a national, because America is different than the United States. The United States is the occupational government that is functioning under the term these United States, which really means Washington, D.C., London, Rome, Vatican, and I always forget the last one.
Me too.
Spain.
DC.
Yeah, it's Rome, is Washington, Rome, Vatican, and I want to say Israel, but it might be somebody else. And that's really what these United States is. So when people say that they are odd, and then there was an act called the Trading with the Enemy Act that then created, when the United States went bankrupt in March 9th, 1933, that created the indemnity now between the United States government and the American people, in which the United States government declared that the American people were enemies to it. And thus now they can function, they can control them under Trading with the Enemy Act because of the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy basically said that all of the rule that they had was over, right? That started from 1871 to 1933. So now that was over, in order for them to maintain power, they had to then declare that the American citizens themselves were enemies to the federal government, and then the federal government people represent the citizens of the true citizens of the United States, which is a lie.
Mm.
So that's why they basically created military jurisdictions over the American states. So that way they could create agencies, and those agencies would create a fourth state, which would be the bureaucratic state, that they could then create their own laws and then rule over the organic or the real republic states under this military jurisdiction that was handed out through zip codes and all this other crap.
Wow. So you had mentioned earlier about people coming over from on a boat. Are you referring to the people that came over from Europe, or are you talking about so-called Africans that came from Africa?
We was already here, so the only Africans that came over here came over within the 13th century, and that was our they were a part of the old empire. These are Abu Bakari and them people that came over in the 13th century to help us against the invasion of the Tartarian or the Tartarian peoples that was coming from East Asia by way of what today now we call Alaska, through the Russian part. So they came down from Russia through Alaska down into California, and then they moved further in, and then they was trying to do their thing, and went all the way down, all the way almost to Bogota, Colombia, South America. So then we had Abu Bakari and them came over from the Atlantic portion, came over, and then they met head to head, and then that created a big war. There's a book that you can read or people can get called The History of the Mongol Invasion of America. The history of the Mongol conquest from Talamanca, Bogota, and Telequesta. Bogota was basically Colombia today. Talamanca, which is basically Florida, and then it's a great book. I have it on my book list or whatever. But yeah, it's called The History of the Mongol Conquest in America. That's one book that they definitely don't like people reading, because then that gives you the true understanding of who these so-called Native American, Siberian people are, and the fact that they came over here again as basically dogs of war, and we basically fought them to a standstill, and then put them on reservations. And those reservations, that's why they was in the teepees and they was squatting and all that, because they didn't have any jurisdiction or any part in the building of all of the buildings and the temples and the mounds and stuff that was already here. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But we allowed them to maintain themselves because we couldn't send them back, so they could stay in those areas. And then they fell under the jurisdiction of those Moorish nations like the Chikumaga or the Tausalagi or the Panahasawa, the Patuan, the Al-Qaid, and these Moors that were considered part of the ancient Mauritanian races. Evidence of that can be found in a congressional record called the Annexation of Texas in 1845, where it says that the country belonged to the ancient Mauritanian races, the Moorish peoples, who had control of their Indian subjects or Indian associates. So that's them. The people I'm talking about, the real transatlantic slave trade, came after the Civil War, when the Tsar, the black nobility over there in what they call Russia today, took over what was left of Tartaria over there, and then started to usher out on boats all of the slaves. They basically freed all of the Slavs, right, from the Slovenian nations. Today we'll call them Khazarians or Indo-Europeans. And then they started putting them on boats and then started sending them over here, and then brought them by way of the Atlantic current through what they today call Ellis Island. And then from there ushered them in, and then started to call them immigrants. You see what I'm saying? But that's the only real evidence that you have of mass migration of people coming over here on boats. You know what I'm saying? From that period.
Okay.
Movies like The Gangs in New York show this. This is where a lot of the orphans and the orphan trains and these types of beings was starting to become more prevalent in the United States, because they were using them to displace us that was already here, because they had already put us under colorable titles such as Negro, Black, Colored, Octoroon, Quadroon, Creole, right? to be able to break it up. And then they put kill orders on traditional Moorish militia, military people dressed in habit that was still speaking in ancient tongues, that if they was found doing that, they'd kill us. That's what the Indian Removal Act and all of that was about. Funny point is that the original name for the Civil Rights Act was called the Indian Rights Act, because they reclassified all of the so-called true Moors, i.e. American Indians, as Negroes. And then the Siberian people, them type of people, they started to refer to them now as Indians to go along with the new colorable titles and the switcheroo that they was doing on everybody. Then they was bringing the phenotypical Slavic people, Circassian people, who were more pale skinned and stuff, and started bringing them in to occupy the new status of white. See what I'm saying? White and black is the status.
Okay.
But because their skin color matched the color of the status, and because they would now do whatever they could to stay here, they would then use them again as dogs of war to displace and racially profile the rest of us.
Okay. What are dogs of war? This is my first time hearing that.
There's a book called The Dogs of War, and it talks about how a lot of these so-called peoples or so-called Slavic races were used as beasts of burden, literally, and i.e. dogs of war, to displace all the original peoples wherever they was at from their homes and stuff. And how people that look like us even use them to do the same thing. Same way today, like if me and you had a problem, instead of me and you handling it or going to somebody that look us to handle it, we go to somebody that look like them, i.e. the police or somebody, and then they come, you see what I'm saying? And now we're using them to broker some sort of peace between one of us. You see what I'm saying? But when we do that, we give up our individual liberty to then have a foreigner come and then decide what's going to happen between us. That's what they got us in the cycle of dealing with, you know what I mean? And we haven't really found a way out of that to this day, because we are still under the disassociation identity disorder that they inflicted on our people, and that we also adopted, because it was a lot of our people that went along with this.
Yeah.
And played the role, the same role that you would see Steven in Django playing against the rest of the so-called people. But when you watch that movie, you see Steven was the one signing the checks. Steven was the one pouring the brandy. Steven was the one dictating who was going to get killed, who was going to get tortured. And then he would defer it to Carl Candy, who would be buck dancing. And because he light and white, people think he's the one in charge. You see, because the way that the Freemasons work it, and that's what they work together to do that. The way that they work it is they always they stay in the back, and then they put their student or their puppet in the front. So whoever's in front of you talking all of this stuff and acting like they running it, most likely is not the person. Like what they doing with Biden right now.
Yes.
I mean, he's not running the government. He doesn't have any say in it. He doesn't have any wherewithal as to who and where he even is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Wow, you said a lot. So what's your stance on what about presidents like President Trump? Like he doesn't run anything either? Just your
That's
want to get into that.
That's the rub. As Shakespeare said, and there lies the rub. He obviously is not the one that they want involved with anything. Because unlike all of them, he's the only one, according to them, who never had no slave owners in his family. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
He's the only one who didn't come from a career of politicians in the family. He's the only one that didn't come from all of the clubs and the Freemasonic organizations that all these people are part of. You can go online and type in Freemason presidents, and you'll find them in aprons and what lodge they're part of, all of them except him.
Wow.
So that's a problem for them. You dig what I'm saying? Yes. He's a lot like Lincoln in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like they still got us thinking that he's Caucasian and all this other type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at his penny as opposed to everybody else's, his face is the opposite way.
True.
Right? There's a book you can get on him called Hidden Lincoln, where he gives an accurate account of what he himself looked like at the time, and it is not the person that they showing us in all of the TV shows and the pictures and all of that stuff. Because remember, all of these things were reconstructed. All of these people that we think was Caucasian and stuff like that, who had power and stuff, most of them wasn't. They actually people that look exactly like us, but they had customary differences because they was from Albion, they was from Europa, they was from Gaul, which is France. They was from these places or whatever. But after Reconstruction, they redid all of that to make you now not know who and where and what your people actually really look like. So that way, when you read about stuff in history like the Etruscans or the Minoans or the Phoenicians and these type of things, you always think it's Caucasian people, but these is your own people. These is your ancient people who they group in terms, like I said, under terms like the ancient Mauritanian races and things like that. Mm-hmm. And you don't know. You just think that. But also because Hollywood created movies where they had all of these people looking like that. So that way today, you could say that Cleopatra and all these people was melanated, and people would be like, no, that can't be true. But then Egypt is Africa, right? But then at the same time, you could say, oh, but King James and George and Napoleon, all these people was melanated. They'd be like, nah, that's not true. But they in Europe. So you could have white people in Europe, but you can't, and white people in hot ass Africa, but you can't have original people in Europe. But then the oldest people in Europa, they all come from a people called the Grimaldi. And those Grimaldi people, whether it be the Grimaldi or the Kennewick man or the Peking man or the Guadalupe woman, all of these names for melanated ancient people from these places. Yet we have to go by the modern term of it and the modern aspect of it. Mm. So now we can't so now we say that what these people originally were, we look like we're crazy. We're trying to blackwash history and all of that, when it's actually was always like that. They just reversed it. And they created a school system that was paid and bought and paid for by people like Rockefeller to conceal and flip all of this. Mm-hmm. They created what they call Moors Indian charity schools. They created Indian seminary schools to bag up all of these Siberians and then make them believe whatever their culture was and all that. It was an operation. Because most of these people during the turn of the century and all of that, all of their parents had been killed and locked up in these ancient castles and stuff that they repurposed as insane asylums or orphanages and stuff like that. And then, I mean, at one point you could buy white children in the mail. What? They would put them in boxes and shit and mail them to your house. Like, this is facts.
Crazy.
Yeah, get a book called The Orphan Trains, and it talks all about this stuff. And they don't know where these people's parents were. At one point, all of the children, during the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, as they call it, all of those factories was being ran by these little orphan Cabbage Patch children. A lot of the labor riots and stuff was actually fought by children, like the Little Rascals, children like that was actually running the foundries, running the coal mines. This is what they was doing to their own people. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, those of us that actually owned everything, that actually had the jurisdiction over the land, that had been here from time immemorial, had watched these mounds and these trapezoid pyramids and these Tartarian buildings and stuff. We actually are the descendants of those who constructed them. We're the ones that had to get ran out, so that way they could eventually move them in. You see what I'm saying? Yes. And then we then get dejected to the point so that way they can make the aliens the nationals, and then take the nationality from the aliens and then make them subject citizens.
I see.
And they've been playing the shell game against us ever since. And then, like I said, there was a lot of our people who generationally went along with this garbage, and they were able to receive scraps on the table, and they was actually able to work with the black Freemasons, work with the white Freemason as counterparts, or as the black and the white checkers on the chessboard, who act like they're apart, but they really working together, and make it seem like the rest of us is crazy. That things like racial ambiguity and racial strife and all that stuff existed, when really a lot of these people were traitors to both sides. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And switched it up on us.
So who is really behind all of this enslavement of all of us?
Rome is the last aspect of it. Okay. That's the Rome is basically the culmination of all of the pagan, ex-Babylonian, ancient word for them would be Heresheth. This type of pagan, idol, human sacrifice, human bondage, creating abominations, worshiping unseen forces, getting guidance from the infernal underworld, that type of thing, that all culminated at Rome. Okay. And thus all of the so-called papal bloodlines, whether it be the Orsini, the Aldobrani, the Breakspears, it's another one. These are the ones at the top. These are the ones they don't ever really talk about. Breakspears, the Sassons, these types of families, the Colonnade or the Colonian, who we get Columbia, Cristobal Colon, like those Colon families. The word the Collins, that's the American version of the Colons, who are the Colombians. That's why it's called the District of Columbia. That's why you got Columbia Pictures. That's why you got the plate, the country Columbia. It's all owned by the same family. So it's all these 13, it's essentially these, what they say is 13 families that are at the top, and then you got the ones under them who are like the Cavendish, these are the ones you hear about, the Cavendish, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, these type of people. Then under them, you got the people who work for them, those are the world governments. And then under them, you got the state wide governments. You see what I'm saying? Then under them you got the mafias that do all of the work. Then under them you got the intelligence agencies that basically work in tandem to keep everything destabilized. Then you got the underworld, the crime syndicates that work for the intelligence agencies. Then under them you got the municipality, the crooked municipalities or whatever. Then under them you got the miseducated useful eaters. Those are just the people who go along with whatever they say. You know what I'm saying? And walk around here like zombies. Then you got us.
Jesus, have mercy. How in the world can you dismantle all that? I mean, can you? And if you do, it's got to take a lot of time.
Yeah, but I mean, they only have been really disconnected since the beginning. Like I said, really since 1871. That's when we really started falling. Up until 1871, we were still rocking. We still had the majority control, like the Moorish, what they call the Moorish, Ottoman, American militias and armies. We were still rocking with them. When they talk about the French and Indian Wars, the Seminole Wars, those are all American Moorish wars that have been going on from 1492, or really 492, because they added the 1,000 years to make it seem like more time had passed from when it really what it was. So the 1,000 years was added. Wow. You know what I mean? So it's actually 492 when things got crazy. But up until that, the world was almost almost, I wouldn't say like a paradise, but it was way better than what it was now, and more technologically and spiritually advanced. And then from that point, after the fall, let's say, of Granada, after the surrender of Granada, which is the basis of all treaties, these Roman peoples began to work, like I said, diligently to find ways to access their demonic links, if you will, they pre-flood, antediluvian demonic links, to be able to try to use that type of technology to influence the rest of us that wasn't with it. And so that's where you get people like John Dee, who worked for Queen Elizabeth. He was the first, let's say, alchemist or occultist who started to use the tetragrammaton and Kabbalistic type of magic and stuff like that, to be able to infuse different laws and stuff, so that way they can take control and get people to possess themselves, and then, you know what I mean, get into the secret orders, and then creating all of this veiled occultism and stuff, and then use that to infiltrate the quote unquote Freemasonic organizations, to then turn them into satanic organizations, and then use them as a means to act as a hidden hand for all of the other stuff they was trying to implement throughout the world. There's books you can get on that called one of the biggest ones in our modern time period was a guy named Aleister Crowley, who is the infernal beast that actually was a British Secret Service agent. There's a book you can get on him called Agent 666, and they used him to eventually lay waste to what was left of the Sublime Orders, and they really take control, and then infuse them with all of the dredge and demonic stuff that we know them to be a part of today. And through him, they were able to influence the next generation of people like Jack Parsons, who set up the Jet Propulsion Laboratories. People like his gay lover, a dude named L. Ron Hubbard, who set up the Church of Scientology. One of their understudies, a guy named Anton LaVey, who set up the Church of Satan, who was the lover of another dude named Michael Aquino, who worked for the Presidio Army base, who was set up the Temple of Set and led to the abduction of over 25,000 children. This is something that became the web that they were able to actually use, because they re-invoked the energy of Babylon through something that they did during the time they were working on the Philadelphia experiment called the Babylon working. So we may not believe in none of this, but this is the stuff that they actually are documented to be doing and have done. And then the process of that opened up portals that they would be able to influence and bring a lot of evil into the world, and get people to compromise themselves willingly to then become perpetual slaves to this, so that way they can leapfrog through time and keep the same agenda going.
I see.
However, it's all destined to fail, because it's unsustainable. Evil is an unsustainable objective.
Okay.
Because in order for evil to be continuously successful, you have to get people to ignore the good within themselves. That's ultimately not a sustainable action, because people are born on the square. They're actually born good.
Right. Amen.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't look at a baby and be like, that baby gonna be evil one day.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
They want you to believe that by creating movies and books like Damien the Omen and Abigail, and you know what I mean, where they're always trying to do the same thing. But if you watch those movies, they all have the same tropes. They always have to get a good woman, right, who's actually a nice person, and they gotta mind control her. They gotta psyop her to the point that she becomes open enough to allow this thing into her. If that's the case, why not just get one of the evil chicks you already got and make the baby come out of her? You can't do that. The goal of evil is seduction.
Okay.
They have to seduce you into it. You know what I'm saying? They like in the old Star Wars, like what they're trying to do with Star Wars now, trying to make Star Wars a lesbian female brand. But the aspect of Star Wars that we grew up with was very simple to understand. There's the light side and there's the dark side.
Right.
And you either going to be of the light or you're going to be of the dark. Or you might think you're of the dark and then wind up being of the light. That's how Darth Vader came about. He was the most notable villain in all of history. But when you watch the full scope of the movie, you see that he didn't start out like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And what redeemed him was the love of his son. He wasn't willing to sacrifice his son to the empire. You see what I'm saying? Right. And eventually gave his life so his son would live and become the greatest Jedi that would ever live. So that was inspiring to our generation.
Yes.
Okay? So what they had to do now is go back to everything that inspired us and taint it and make it disgusting. So that way we don't identify with it. So that way we can't pass that on to our children. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's another form of reconstruction. That's another form of what they call Transcendenthian magic, where they try to take what was great and then make it evil, when really the stuff that they're taking is just the name only, because they can't undo what we already grew up with knowing it to be. That's why we can see that this is obviously something different than what you're doing, to the point where they'll get the chick who was Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant to be the one to put all of this stuff out.
Right.
So she was the one that was actually wrangling the girls for him, that was aware of all of the sexual abuse and all of that, and yet still he go down and then she get promoted to do Star Wars. What type of world is that?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? But that's what evil got to do. But that's why it's also unsustainable. That's why the whole Disney and all of that stuff is going into the toilet. Nobody's believing none of that no more.
Right.
Because the veil has been lifted. We're in the age of knowing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're so scared of the Chevron deference, which really is what it started out was that it started in 1984.
Okay.
Right, which is funny, because when you read the book 1984 by George Orwell, you know, so in 84 a case came up where a government agency basically won the right to create its own experts to be able to justify any aspect of ambiguous law that they could attest to. And made it that way, so that way up until then, any type of ambiguous law that was out there could not be interpreted by anybody outside of the legislative branch. Okay. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's set up. So Congress make the law, the legislative branch enforce the law, Supreme Court interpret the law. So they bypassed all of that. And then what that did was create the bureaucratic state. You see what I'm saying? Which, again, is the quote unquote forever Washington, quote unquote, deep state. And now that they had their own ways to do that, create their own laws, they could then employ their own experts. So what CIA started to do was go into colleges and then start to recruit different people from different forms of educational disciplines, and then employ them as experts to help go along and help them justify all of the BS they're supposed to do in the mainland. Because remember, CIA is not supposed to be able to operate on the mainland. That's against their mandate. But they found a workaround with that by being able to use the Chevron deference to be able to use stooges to be able to put forth what they wanted to put forth. And then once CIA started doing that, then FBI started doing that. Then the CDC started doing that. Then start doing that. The EPA started doing that, right? Then all of these different agencies create their own bureaucracies and then pay for their own experts, and then even start swapping experts between each other to then start milking money out of us. Right? Creating erroneous statutes and laws that aren't even statutes and laws. So when everybody brought it up and said, well, this can't be right, the judge or whatever, they would always cite Chevron and say, well, we have to go with what the experts say. It's against the law. That goes against the Constitution. Okay. Which says that each person has to be able to meet the to meet who's accusing them. You know what I mean? And you have the right not to incriminate yourself and stuff like that. So that went against all of that. They were able to get away with doing all that. That's how they was able to flip COVID on everybody. That's why they was able to flip the mandate. They just got a expert. Who was the expert? Fauci. See what I'm saying? Fauci. This is what they did with Fauci. They used him. This is third time they used him. They used him for the AIDS thing, right? They was coming up with the ACT and all of that, and it wasn't approved by the FDA and all of that, right? To actually be able to use, as the AZT was actually killing people, but they brought him in as an expert to say it wasn't killing people. See what I'm saying? And next thing you know, it's being used and now is killing more people. You know what I mean? To the point where they done found out, they made it in the lab, they did all of that, and still they were able to use the expert that they created, that they paid for, to then manipulate the people. And then they dusted him off after all of that. Because remember, back in the days when the AIDS thing was happening, they were using that as the fuel to basically radicalize the gay and the LGBTQ people or whatever for the time that we in now. So that way, once Obama got in, And then he was there to be the first gay president to be able to push the LGBT and the trans rights and all of that. That then created another subdivision of fake experts that they could come out and say, hey, these are the trans experts that say it's okay for you to cut this little boy's penis off, or get this little girl to cut her breasts off and stuff like that as a form of gender care. There's no such thing as gender care. You can't care for somebody based on their gender. You can only like certain chemicals that exist within the female body don't exist in the male body. That's just science. That's just God. That's just how things are. However, they believe that you can change, if you change your mind about something, you see what I'm saying? Then they can use your mind changing as a means to change your physiology. And that is a form of gender dysphoria. So this is the first time in history in which they've used a so-called medical illness as the precursor or the prerequisite to be able to go along with terminally invasive surgeries. Right? All because they got experts that come out and say that you can do this, even though they have no expertise in doing it.
Right. Right.
You understand?
Yes, sir.
And because they radicalize these people and they're using their mental illness as means of control over them, they have created a dependent medical state. You see what I'm saying? Because once you do that, like when you get breast implants, they don't tell you. Most people think, or most women think, that once you get the breast implants, you get the implants, you're good. No, you got to swap them things out like every 5-6 years. So by the time they start healing, it's time for you to take those out, put new ones in. You see what I'm saying? And now you created a medical dependent person for the rest of their life. You see what I'm saying? Because these pharmaceutical companies and all of them created their own experts. You see what I'm saying? Because they're all paid for by the same three companies: BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. And they're all under something called Hibera or Hifera, right? And so these three agencies, which are taking regular people's money to do all of this, people's pension funds and stuff, they have created a monopoly where they are the three main board carriers of every major corporation in the United States, corporation itself. So that's a monopoly. That's supposed to be against the law. That's trading with the enemy. BlackRock just last month or 2 months ago just got revealed that they've been funding 61 companies on the blacklist that are in China. So they are literally trading with the enemy of the United States right now. Wow. But they not being tried for treason. Why not? You see what I'm saying? Because they are all a part of the WEF, which is another version of which is a foreign version of the CFR, which is the Council of Foreign Relations. See what I'm saying? All of these fake bureaucratic foundational agencies that were created after the Chevron deference. All of this came from that. There's another version of the Chevron deference called the Skidmore deference. Okay. What Skidmore deference does is it makes it so that way it gives more power to the federal judicial system, in which they choose who is the real expert as opposed to the agency. So that's actually a little better. The thing is, the people think that all agencies in the government is corrupt. They're only that way because they're peopled by corrupt people. But the element of what we established it on is still pristine. It still works for the people if the people can get in there to work it. So because we in the melanated community grew up under the whole slave grift, the racial slave grift of us all, being slaves from Africa, and that, we'll never have no power, and that the white man is always the one in control, and no matter what happens, we always going to be killed by police and all that. All of that stuff was imposed on us between 1973 and 1984. Whereas the opposite happened from 1948 to 1973 was the highest point, or what you would call a golden age of American entrepreneurialism and money. Back then, you could have one job and have like 2 houses.
Wow.
Now you could have 2 jobs and can't have 1 house.
Can't even afford one.
You see what I'm saying? So they've created this deference within us, because what they did was they used the civil rights movement as a means to move us away from our nationality. You see what I'm saying? And they want to get us locked up and caught up in all of these inferior titles that are patented and trademarked. Like the term African American is owned by a food company. One of the main shareholders is a dude named Charles Young. So when Jesse Jackson was calling y'all African Americans, right? What he was doing was putting you, when you identify with that, you then put yourself under that patent to literally become food for these people. Which is why Black people are usually the ones that have been put under these extraneous circumstances when they refer to themselves in these inferior terms, just like Negro, just like Black, just like colored. All of these are colorable trademark titles by the same United States government, just like Indian. You know what I'm saying? The Indian Act said that no so-called Indian nation had the right to be seen as a nation anymore. They all had to be seen as individuals. So you could act like, because you're calling yourself an American Indian or a wild Indian or whatever type of Indian, you just saying that you might as well just call yourself a nigga or a Negro. It's the same thing. You're putting yourself under something that you don't understand, that was set up for you by people, by specifically a dude named Walter Pleckler, who was working with a Black man named Marcus Garvey, who was trying to convince you that you was brought over here in slaves from Africa, when he was not even from America. He from Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? He from Jamaica working with a white man. So that way, once you decided, okay, I'm African, I'm not from here, let me go to Africa, Walter Pleckler then writes you, okay, he's an African now. Now we can move one of these Siberians into the slot. Now we can move one of these white people. We're going to call them Indians. They're going to pay us $5 to get into this slot, and now they can take your land. Oh, well, the reason why you got a name like Johnson or Smith or Barrington or whatever is because the white man, that's a slave name. No, that's the name that the slaves adopted. You see what I'm saying? Once they got here and they boxed you off your land. So that way, when they said Johnson, this dude's name is Wachowski. You see what I'm saying? But it was prejudice against the Polish, so he then took the name Johnson, right? And then when they had to pick under the colorable law, which Johnson they was going to give the land to, they decided to give it to the white Johnson because they knew that that would allow them more control over the real Black Johnson. See what I'm saying? Who had his own town, who had his own oil fields, who had his own stuff. Then they make us think that all of the sharecroppers and all these people we see lynch and hung was just dumb Black people. No, these was the judges, the lawyers, the doctors, the empresses, the queens, the dukes, the legislators, the mayors. See what I'm saying? This is who they was lynching. But because they write it in a book, oh, this was nigga Felix, and that's what we think it is. That's true. What that was. When that was actually the Emperor of South Carolina. You don't know. But you don't even go to find out, because they done made you forget that you actually own anything here. We're the only people in this world who they tell us that where we're born is not where we're from. That don't make sense. They don't ever go to no dark-skinned Indian people or Dravidian people and say, you know what, you really from Africa? You need to go back to Africa and do that. They don't go to no dark Malaysian people and say, you know, you're not really from Malaysia, you're really from Africa, you should go back to Africa. The only people who do that is our own people here. And this is because of the miseducation. Alex Roots never happened. Alex Haley, that was plagiarized from a book called The African, and the white man that helped Alex Haley do that, he's the one who got the copyright when Alex Haley died. So that didn't happen. But yet and still, they creating TV shows on it. They got OJ in the show. They got James Earl Jones in the show. They got all these people in the show making you think that this is what it was. Prior to 1973, I never heard about slavery and none of that. Prior to the year I was born, I never heard about none of that. I didn't know about slavery and none of that until one day I watched Roots with my moms.
Me too.
Then now all of a sudden, oh, this is what they was doing to black people. Okay, so now I don't like white people. But that didn't even happen. The word slave, it don't even apply to you. That applied to Slovenia people. There's no black people descended from Slovenians. To this day, that's not even your title. So how can you be something that you never was? It only works because these racial grifters want us to be down with it. They want us to do it. I'm about to call him Martin. Michael Luther King himself, because that was his name, Michael. Michael said himself, the original black man is languishing in exile in the land of his birth. He was telling you. But because he was under the Freemasonic secret, he couldn't give it up. So now that we got a nationality, now you got people that look like me that's out here trying to get you to be an Indian again. You know what I'm saying? Like that worked out for anybody in history. Like, no, didn't work out. The only reason why they don't want us to identify with anything Moorish or Moorish history and stuff like that, because that's the one thing they can't copyright. They can't trademark that. That's freedom. That is actually a title that represents freedom, because we're the only ones who still got treaties, who still got amity powers, that still got estates all over the world under that designation. So they get their people that look like us to come on your platform, go on other people's platform, and talk down on people that's speaking about this by using the same old tropes of like, oh well, the Moors, they enslaved black people, and the Moors, how we enslaved the black people, but then we brought enlightenment to the whole world. How we was doing both at the same time. Oh well, the Moors, they wasn't here in America, all that. That's not what the congressional records say. That's not what Chief Tammany said. That's not what the Delaware Moors said. That's not what the Algonquins said. Why would they call the Algonquins, the Seneca, the Wabanaki, the Panahasua, the Pamunkey, the Seneca, the Yamasee, the Southern Creeks, Northern Creeks, the Seminoles, the Washos, the Washitas, the Owachitas? Why would they call them barbarous nations when the term Barbary or barbarous was referred to the Moors? Why would they refer to them under a Moorish name? How is it that the word Anasazi and the Mecca Indians and the Mohammed Indians, these are all Islamic names? How is it that the Hopis were speaking Islamic Berberic Latin back in the 1700s when they got here, but the white man called it gibberish? You know what I'm saying? How is it that they were doing it? How is it that they finding mosques over there in Mount Moriah, and the congressional records is referring to everything west of the Nueces and the Bravo rivers as ancient Mauritania or the old Moorish Republic? How is all of this? How does both exist at the same time? And again, the only people that ever give me pushback on that stuff is people that look like us. Because when I was coming up, they was acting like the Moors was white people.
Wow.
They was making the Moors white. So it took us at least from the time I started getting into it, which was what, 95? So between 95 and like 2003, they were still trying to say that the Moors was white. So we knocked that down, showed to prove how that was, and that the term white was actually, they was referred to that because one of the biggest Moorish dynasties was called the Alawites, right? And they all wore the white turbans and the white stuff and all of that, dressing like Yehoshua or Yeshua Hawashai, right? He would be dressing like that. And then it went from that to, oh, well, the Moors was always enslaving and they was only having sex with white women. Yeah, some Moors was doing that, but not everybody. We all wasn't with that. That's what we went to war with each other for. And then the ones of us that lost, they decided they was going to convert and hook up with the black Romans and their white slaves, and then they both worked together to knock the rest of us out. So now today they say, oh, well, my grandmother never talked to us about Moors or this like that. Yes, she did, but she just didn't refer to it as that. You see what I'm saying? Because again, they had kill orders on us. They would kill us. They would kill you if you was wearing a fez with no writing on it and not a part of no Freemasonic order. They would kill you if they heard you speaking the Punic Latin. They would kill you if you was speaking the Hebrew and all of that. So a lot of the nations, like the Shinnecock and them, they would have what they call the Kituwa Society. or the false face society, or the fire keepers who would keep the sacred pipes, and then they would be the ones in the chiefs that would pass on the oral traditions of the Moors, who were the real progenitors of the tribe when it was a nation. See what I'm saying?
Yes.
But they don't want to deal with that because then they would have to actually choose a side. They would actually have to declare a nationality, which would then bring them back into the Republican form of government, because now they're represented by a nation, and now that nation, which is guaranteed a Republican form of government under this new system, they now would be able to elect and then go forward with certain things, instead of being put in a democracy under mob rule, where because we all say we Indian, or we all say we Negroes, or we all say we Black Greeks, you know what I'm saying? If you don't go along with that, there's something wrong with you. That's communism. And that's what they infused in the so-called community during the civil rights movement. That's why people like J. Edgar Hoover and these people was against Martin Luther King and all of that, because his speechwriter, who was a Jewish gentleman named Stephen Levinson, was a part of the Communist Party. See what I'm saying? Huey P. Newton and them was devotees of Mao Zedong, who was a communist. Everybody talk about the Nazis. Mao Zedong killed triple the people that Hitler killed. Mao Zedong killed over 51 million people with that damn red book. And then the irony is, he was a Jesuit. He was a Jesuit, and the Rothschilds is the one who wrote the red book. You know what I'm saying? All of these dudes was Jesuits. All of these dudes was employed and funded by Rothschild on behalf of those who are unseen. Like I said, the Aldombrini, the Sassoon, the Orsini, the Breakspears, who Bob Marley married into the Breakspear family. Cindy Breakspear, Junior Gong's mother, she's part of them people. So the Marley clan, they all breaks. So he a part of that. He an heir to the Breakspear Black nobility throne of all of the baby eaters and them type of people. He married into that. That's how close that stuff is to us. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
So that's the problem with all of this. We're caught up. They got Black people believing communism and Marxism, like BLM. People who run BLM. The chick name is it's such a scam that the chick who run BLM, her last name is Colors. Like, come on, man. You don't see how they playing in your face? They playing you. Yeah. They playing you, and they use the original woman for it because her ego, and that's a part of the Communist Manifesto. Secure the position of the woman. Make her go against the traditional family, and she will be the best pawn for us to fulfill our ultimate objective. The destruction of the traditional family. And that's what she said they want to do. She said, look, we are trained Marxists. But the irony is Karl Marx was a Black man. This is how crazy it is. Like, look at Karl Marx. What white man you know got a thick-ass afro like that? This is what I'm saying. Like, Marx was Black. Babe Ruth was Black. What's his name? Hoover was Black. All these things was passing. All of them passing. Going along with it. Say, oh, look at those Negroes over there. Meanwhile, he got a fez in the closet. He hiding his dark grandmother. It's sick, man. So yeah, so that's what they don't want to deal with the Chevron deference, because it basically kneecapped all of the fake laws created by the fake bureaucratic state and all of these fake colorable organizations that don't have the right to actually make laws. They don't. So now that that's gone, they're scrambling.
Hold on one minute. Because you've given us a whole lot. I just want to pause. Thank you so much. Family, if you are enjoying this educational broadcast, well, I see the group of tears. It's giving us a lot of information. Please hit the like button. We have 900 people in the chat. Subscribe to the channel. And more importantly, give a blessing, a gift to Aseer the group of tears. You can send him a cash app, $, right here in the ticker. You're welcome. DS4 18. He is really blessing my soul, teaching me things I didn't know. I'm going to thank Blue Cake for the donation. God bless you. I'm not going to speak too much because every time I speak, something happens.
You hear it, right?
You hear
They
and
be
people,
playing. That's what I'm saying. They always playing games, man. They
they
always
don't want us to know this. So please bless this man of God, man of the Most High, who's given us this education. I'm going to ask you before we go back into the Chevron deference and why they're scared. I got this picture from Chief Mack.
Mhm.
Who is
Yeah,
this?
see that in the back?
Mm-hmm.
That's Saint Corvinius.
Okay.
That Moor's name is Saint Corvinius.
Hmm.
Whenever you see when you see the Catholic cardinals and they all be in session and they have one of them little red fezzes,
Yes.
those people are called Moors because they are occupying our seat. So they are playing us, literally. So the whole Vatican, before it was the Vatican in Rome is built, they call it that because it's built on Mount Vatica. Okay. Mount Vatica was the burial ground for the ancient Moors in that region who are today referred to as the Etruscans. Those Etruscans were connected to another group of Moorish peoples, ancient Moorish peoples, called the Levantines. And those Levantines and Etruscans were the precursors to the people today we call the Romans. Okay. And so they adopted what Rome had, they adopted from the peoples that was already there. So it's also called Vatican or Vatica because it's a vat. And the vat is where you stir like a cauldron. That's also the symbolism in it. But the original Vatican was in a place called Freising, or Freising, Bavaria. And those Moors up there were a part of an old Moorish group called the Holy Roman Empire, who they want you to believe was white people, but it wasn't. It was founded by two melanated people named Otto and Edith in about 967. And that was what they called the First Reich. Okay? The First Reich was the Holy Roman Empire. And one of the greatest priests they had or rulers they had was a dude named Corvinius or Saint Corvinius. And Saint Corvinius was also a doctor. So the reason why when you look at that crest that you see him, you see Saint Corvinius, then you see like a book bag, and then you see a bear, right? That story is the old story about Corvinius because he used to dispatch different medicines and stuff to different Moorish towns and stuff in what they call Hansa towns, right? Or house towns that existed in the old Holy Roman Empire.
Okay.
And so one day he had to pass over the mountain pass, which was like real high up in the Freising Mountains. The term freezing comes from Freising or Freising, which means cold. So as he was going over, the horse he was on got attacked by a bear. And so the people, this is the legend. So the people, after a couple of days, thought that he was dead, that the bear had killed him and all of that. Then they said on the seventh day, they had looked when the storm broke and he had come riding down on the town, riding the bear with the medicine. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And then as he rode the bear down, the bear brought him to the edge of the town. He got off the bear, and then he took the thing off, smacked the bear on the ass, and then let the bear go back into the mountains. And then from that point on, he had been seen as a saint because he had secured everything. So technically, they say he was like the first pope of Freising. So after that, reaching that level, over there, they had this thing called the Golden Bull, right? And the Golden Bull is where in Germania that all of the kings would be crowned under. And when you look up the Golden Bull in Germany, you'll see that it's a Moor's head, it's dark-skinned Moor's heads with the flute and the thing from St. Corvinius. So this Pope, Benedict, he is naming himself after Benedict the Moor, who is another saint of Rome, right? Because the whole Council of Nicaea, all of those was melanated people. They just happened to be of the Roman ilk. You see what I'm saying? So again, they whitewash everything, and they got us looking at it. But Constantine and all of that, this was all exposed by Putin the other day when he posted all of them pictures of those Moors in Russia, because the Renaissance never made it to Russia, because Russia was never down with none of that, going against the Moors and all of that type of stuff. They wasn't with the fall of Granada and all of that. Saint Peter, Peter the Great, Catherine, all of those was melanated people. There's a great book you can get on this called One World Tartarians. But what happened was the Russo princes, they overthrew a group, the ruling body of Moorish Tartarians that existed in that area called the Pugachev. And once they took them over, they adopted again all of their riches and stuff like that, and then basically set themselves up under the czarship, which ruled up until the slaying of Tsar Nicholas and the family, who was killed because he went along with Selassie and torpedoed the whole League of Nations, which is the first United Nations thing they were going to set up. Okay. So when they both declared they wasn't with that, that's when they tried to take both of them out. So so that's why all of these dudes is always following behind what we're doing, because we're not in our proper station. So if we're not in it, they're going to play the role as if they are us.
Okay.
All of the benefit from it, while they got us thinking something else. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing now with the new boogeyman they created, is the Proposal 2025 thing.
Okay.
Right? You got all the Democrats now, because they done lost the Chevron deference. They done lost the immunity thing. So now they got to come up. They look like they're going to lose the election. So they got to come up with something new to scare the Negroes with. So that's this new Proposal 2025 thing, which was created by a think tank called the Heritage Foundation. And the Heritage Foundation is comprised of a bunch of Christian nationalists. Not all of them is Caucasian. There are a lot of so-called black ones down with that. And they basically laid out a way in what they would like to see happen once the new Republican president comes in. However, that has nothing to do with Trump's campaign. He hasn't endorsed it. He hasn't done anything with it. He's not even talking about it like that. Other day he said something about it, but he said he ain't with it. He didn't even read it like that. But everybody that's scared about it and think that it's some coon shit, if you are not scared of it, you should go and read it yourself. Read the whole thing yourself. There's nothing in there that says that we're going to stop black people from going to school. We're going to put chains on black people's neck. Like, that's all they're talking about it. But none of that is in it. Basically, what it says is they want to reduce the size of government, which is a good thing, which is great to me.
Yes.
Also, this also shows you how many original people still are under the assumption that Caucasian people own the progression of their destiny. Like, no white man that's writing anything down on a piece of paper that's not even an elected official. I just told you that the Chevron deference been shut down. So no outside force that's not connected to a governmental organization of part of the three legislative branches of government can institute any type of laws to do anything to anyone. So how is that proposed? It's a proposal. A proposal means that it has to be accepted, right?
Right.
Who's accepted this? Nobody's accepted this. That's like saying, oh, well, he proposed. But unless she say yes, it's just a proposal. So why y'all making this mountain into a molehill? And who put the battery in y'all back to do it? Because now I be going on YouTube and I'm watching all of these melanated people talk about it. They all seem like they got the same script. Seem like the same Democrat white man that gave them some script, and they all read it from it. Say like, okay, black people enslaved, check. Okay, black people this, check. It's like, come on, man. Like, who controls your destiny? Why you think white people got that much power? Have you not seen what they doing to white males now? White males can't even get jobs. What you talking about? White men ain't been running shit in this world for a long time right now. He may run around this, like Bobby Hemmings say, he may run around this, but he not running it. If anything, the people in Israel, them type of people running it right now. And they don't like white people. They don't like them at all. The Zionist people and all that, they don't like them at all. Because they upset at them based upon how we use them to round them up back in the days. For more on that, you can get a book called Chosen People of the Caucasus by Michael Bradley, another book called 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler, another book called Iceman Inheritance, another book called Making It a White Man by Paul Lawrence Guthrie, another book called White Cargo, another book called The Forgotten Cause of the Civil War. All these books, you read these books, it will take the boogeyman, white man trauma away from you right away. It's like, oh, these people not running nothing. They just pawns them damn self. But again, if you believe that a guy can come over to a whole country he ain't never been before, put big chains around 9-foot Africans, then get on another boat and bring it to another country he ain't never been before with 3 ships and kill 100 million people, then of course the white man gonna be God to you. But that didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? That didn't happen. And if it did, show me the slave ship that they used to do it. You can show me dinosaur bones from 24 million years ago, right? Dinosaur shin bones and jaw bones and all that. You got all of that, but you ain't got a slave ship from 100 years ago? Somebody lying. And it ain't us. It's them. It's part of the racial hustle. It's a hustle. You know what I mean? It's a scam. It's a grift. It's another way to create a false sense of superiority and a false sense of inferiority in people who have been at war with each other based upon the machinations of people who have a vested interest of keeping them at odds with one another. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's that. So the proposal 2025, that has nothing to do with nothing. That's just a proposal. Now, we was back in the neocon days when Wolfowitz and Rumsfeld and them niggas was in there. That's when the Chevron deference was still in effect. They was able to create a think tank. And from that think tank, they created something called the Plan for a New American Century, right? And then that was called PNAC. And that PNAC was then implemented by Cheney, you see what I'm saying? Who was a part of the think tank. And he implemented that. And that's what led to the whole Iran, Iraq, and all of that. That's what led with 9/11 and all of that. That's why all of that had to happen in order for them to implement it. You see what I'm saying? And then that led to the Patriot Act and all the rest of that crap. There's the movie called Vice with Christian Bale, who, by the way, is the stepson of Gloria Steinem.
Jeez, they all related.
See what I'm saying? They all related. They all related. Everybody that they pump to you in front of the TV, mainstream, is related. All of them. All of them. From the rappers to the actors to the politicians. Brad Pitt is Obama's 5th cousin. You know what I'm saying? Like, they are all incestuously down. The only one that ain't related to none of them is Drumpf.
Who's Drumpf? Keep saying that name. Sound like
Trump. On his original birth certificate, it was Drumpf, and then they changed it to Trump. Okay. So, you know, respect the man for his name. So in that, he the only one not related to them. So this is the problem. Like I said, Snoop Dogg related to Ray J and Brandy. Like, they all related.
That's why they call him Uncle.
Yes. Halle Berry was related to Fred Berry. Remember Rerun? All of these people related. All of these people are related. They all in the same family. We are the ones that's not. Unless we get in there and then they do the scripts. They get one of the witches like Abramovic or Michelle LeMay, and they'll do the scripts on you to try to find out who you may or may not be related to. But they all related. So you can't trust none of them. That's what I just seen E40 endorsing Biden. E40, you know how many E40's partners, as he say, was locked up under these Biden and Clinton administration? Chevron deference that was put through. No, but you want to endorse Biden. Like anybody Joy Reid, all of these Negroes are insane. They are insane. She said, I'll vote for him even if he's in a coma. That's how much this chick is totally drinking the Kool-Aid. Her, Karen Jean, drunk Pierre, she always drunk driving somewhere allegedly. Lying with every breath she can muster. Heels Up Harris, who locked up more so-called original men in California than anybody else for weed. Then the next year she on the Breakfast Club talking about how much weed she smoking. Like, this is who y'all down with. So what y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna swap Biden out, and y'all gonna vote for Kamala? That's who y'all gonna want president? Or what y'all gonna do? Y'all gonna try to put Michelle in there, and then what? Have Obama be the vice president so you can try to flip it like that? That ain't gonna work neither.
But Kamala is an AKA. She's a part of the Black Greek sorority. She's a sister.
Exactly. Who's an Indian? Who's straight Indian? Nobody in her family is melanated. You know what I mean? If I take a Bengal tiger and put it in a Bronx zoo, that ain't a Bronx tiger. That's a Bengal tiger in the Bronx. So that's an Indian woman, you know what I'm saying, in Howard. And that ain't nothing, because Howard, Spelman, these are all military installations that was set up to reconstruct the minds of the original POWs, aka Moors, who had been denationalized after the Great War, who are now being re-educated and put under General Howard's jurisdiction, and then created a whole university that was already there that they repurposed as a university to then re-educate these Negroes to want to be more like them, right? And then that's what they did with all of these HSBCUs. What is a black Greek is a Macedonian. If we really want to get into it, a black Greek technically would then be an ancient Peloponnesian. That's not what these dudes is acting like. These people who calling themselves black Greek and all of that, that was all started by a sellout named Edward Minton, who wanted to have his version of what he seen the white boys doing. And the white boys at the time was doing what they saw the old Moors doing. So the white boys is trying to follow what the Moors was doing. This Negro is trying to follow what the white boys doing. You see what I'm saying? And then he set up the AKA thing and then created what they call the Divine Nine, right? And then he got everybody to think that they was more uppity Negro. And then the white power establishment began to support them, because they were now useful idiots. They were now useful tools that they could educate in their form of educational system. So that way they would not go back to the pro-nationality movement of the days that was trying to get people to go back to what it was before Reconstruction. There's a book you can get on this that talks all about this, called the Blue Vein Society, in which you had to be so light that your veins would look blue under your thing to be down with it. That's why we're the whole brown, you can't be darker than a brown paper bag, all of these tests and shit, all of the bleaching cream and all of that Madam C.J. Walker and them was selling to all of the people. That's where all of that came from. That's why they wanted to focus more on the Harlem Renaissance than all of the Black Wall Streets that was around. Because what they wanted to do was get the black bourgeoisie, the boule, to go and follow the artists as leaders instead of the actual accredited leaders that had their own oil fields. I did a video and showed how out there in Tulsa we had oil fields where they was pulling out 3,000 barrels of oil a day. Where one of the reasons why they stopped us, why they tried to lampoon us for eating watermelon, was because the Moors had the biggest watermelon trade in the world. We were shipping watermelon all over the world. So they had to get us to stop liking watermelon. They had to get us to stop picking cotton. Whenever you see pictures of people picking cotton, you automatically assume that they picking the cotton for white people. But you don't see no white people around them. That was their own fields. They was picking their own cotton. If I own my own cotton field, I'll be picking it myself. You know what I'm saying? Especially today, I ain't going to trust no Mexican to go do that. I'm going to do it my damn self, because it's my cotton pick field. A black man created the cotton gin. Remember that? So how is the white man the one owning the cotton reel? How is it that on the Confederate money of the back in the day, it was not but black people on the money? But the Confederacy was bad, because these Negroes don't know nothing. What they did, they watched Glory, right? They watched Glory and think that that's how it went. That's all they do. That's why they stopped reading. That's why they got rid of social studies. That's why they got all of the teachers after the 60s that got broke down from the Panthers, who were basically ex-communists and Marxists, to then go into the schools and then keep pumping this whole back to Africa theory, Pan-African theory. If you're going to read a book about Africa, get the book Neo-Colonialism by Nkrumah. Get that book if you want to really read something about the New Imperialism by Kwame Nkrumah. You know what I'm saying? And if you really want to do that, but nobody want to read that. They don't want to read books like that. You know what I'm saying? They don't even talk about him. They don't even talk about the writings of Patrice Lumumba and all of that. Patrice Lumumba said that the original man in America has his own nationality, independent of Africa. Nobody talk about that though. See what I'm saying? They always want us to be up under somebody else. But most Africans don't hear about the slave thing till they get here.
That's what they tell me. I'm African. We have African friends. We never enslaved our own people. We never even heard this story until we came to America. You people are not us. They will tell you that.
Exactly. And I've had Africans from many different African nations tell me the same thing. Then I say, well, what about what's going on in Ghana with the point of no return and all that? Oh, that's just a hustle. They just getting money.
Let me tell you, my son went there during that whole Black folks come back home.
Yep.
And we'll give you land. And what it was a hustle. He was right there when the year of return.
Yeah.
He called me and said, Mom, this is a lie. It's a hustle. I'm the only Black American here.
Yeah.
We're actually putting out a call to their own people that are abroad. They're going to give them land. They're giving us crap.
Yep. They just take the money from us. They just murdered 6 different sisters in Gambia the other day. Gambia, Tanzania, all of that. There's travel warnings for all of them. They killing original people going out there right now. That's a fact. Go on YouTube and see that.
I was in Ghana when they killed 2 Black women. Now, they didn't report it. I was there on the.
You know what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying, right? Like, nah, it ain't all it's cracked up to be. You better with the devil you know than the one you don't. And there's a reason why. How come they don't never create no DNA test to find the Africans to find out who they descended from over here? Why are we always trying to take tests to find out how we descended from them? How it don't go both ways? How come there ain't no DNA test to find what American so-called Indian tribe the Africans come from? Because it never happened. Because it's not real. It's fake. It's a scam. Everybody know how the Nigerians be scamming. Everybody know how the Africans be scamming. And I'm not trying to diss no Africans that's listening. Don't take it personal. I'm saying y'all know how y'all people get down. So I'm not saying nothing empty. And we all should be under our own vine and fig tree. We all supposed to follow, honor our mother and father. I was watching Women of Brewster Place the other day, and Cicely Tyson was talking to Robin Gibbons, and Robin Gibbons talking about how she come from Africa and all this other shit, and Cicely Tyson shut her down. Her character shut her down. She said, you know how disrespectful it was for you to pick a so-called African name when your great-grandmother was a prince of the Algonquin nation? Ooh. I damn near cried. I was like, wow. And I remember watching the Women of Brewster Place with my mother back in the 80s. So I'm like, damn, this thing went right over my head back then. See what I'm saying? I remember, like I said, I tell a story all the time. I remember when I went through my pro-Black phase and all of that, I went, and my grandmother, blessed her dead, she was going out with an attaché to the ambassador of Gambia. And I came in with the red, black, and green medallions and all of that, and was talking all of this African shit. He stopped me. He was like, Charlie, you are not African. He said, you are not from Africa. I'm African. I'm from Gambia. You're from here. Find out who your people are here. So then I'm arguing with this man. Oh, you just don't want me to know my history, all of that. He said, you don't know your history. I'm telling you. And this man has been all over the world. He done met the Pope, all of this. I'm 13 arguing with him about how I'm from Africa and all this shit. Then fast forward now, I'm 17, 18, then got more science, got my first fez, feel real good, go to my grandmother's house. As soon as I open the door, she looked at me, she like, oh, you are more now? My jaw dropped. Like, you know what this is? She's like, yeah, I know about all the eels and the bays and all of that. She said, yeah, I know a lot of them. Me and your uncle, we grew up with a lot of them. Some of them was down south with us in Louisiana. We met some of them was up in New York. I said, so what you raised me Christian for? What are we doing? Like, what did you do? she's like, oh, well, you know, we couldn't get into that nationality stuff because, you know, they really wasn't feeling that. And, you know, we had to do what we needed to do, like basically all of that. But then years later, I found out, okay, she was an Easter Star and, you know what I mean? And all of that. So this is what I'm saying. Everybody got a fez in the closet. Everybody got a dark-skinned grandmother that's white. Everybody, it went one way. The dominant gene can't come from the recessive. That's just basic genetics. If you're born a man, you're going to die a man. If you're born a woman, you're going to die a woman, no matter what you call yourself in between. If you die, you didn't turn yourself into a woman. As a man, you die. They're going to find your bones. What they're going to say? Oh, no, this is a man. They're not going to find a dress. They're not going to find none of that. All that's going to be gone. The only thing that's going to be left is the actual truth in the bones, and that's what the Creator made. And you can never undo that. The devil can never undo what was done in the form of righteousness, ever. So you got people could keep fooling themselves. It don't matter, you know.
How do you answer the question? I've had this Sam on my podcast when I talk about the Moorish dynasty, who continue to say that the Moors sold the indigenous people's inheritance. No, I don't know.
Evidence to prove none of that. Because a couple of years ago, they were saying that the Moors wasn't in America. Now, we done debunked that. Myself and other Moors, way older than me, done debunked that to the point now, where now it's turned into, oh, well, now y'all stole the inheritance. But I thought you said we wasn't here. So which one is it? See what I'm saying? You wouldn't even know what the inheritance is if it wasn't for us. You wouldn't know what Egyptology is if it wasn't for us. You don't hear no Indian people talk about international trade, calling themselves kings and queens. I thought y'all was just chiefs, right? Y'all was just walking around with feathers and stuff, living in teepees and shit like that, right? So how are y'all now all of a sudden talking about how now y'all are kings and queens and y'all's this and that? I thought y'all was wild Indians living off the land like the Siberian ones that you see in the cowboy movies and shit. I thought that's where y'all was. Which one is it? Because there's no evidence that y'all built them mounds. The only people that built the mounds in the cities and the pyramids and all of that was the Moors, was the ancient Mauritanians, like it says in the congressional records, like it says in the Library of Congress records, like it says in the Annals of History at the Library of Congress. This whole documentation's on this. The Smithsonian know all of this. That's why you got all of the why you got temples like the Temple of Zoroaster, the Temple of Isis, all of that in the Grand Canyon. The Sphinx that they done found in the Grand Canyon. Indians built that. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, man, these people are trying to be something based upon them trying to be willfully ignorant, based upon whatever Freemasonic or whatever secrets or whatever the willful ignorance that they have chosen to adopt, because they just don't like people with fezzes. They just don't like bays and eels. But the congressional record, HJR 75, says that we were the ones that was already here. We're the only ones that they made a provision for on May 9th, 1933, 3 months after the overall bankruptcy, where they made all the so-called Indians and American citizens enemy to them. They didn't do that to us. They said that they respect the fact that we provided for the swift Americanization of the former Moors, and that whatever we decide to adopt, whether now or in the future, we have the right to do that, because they don't want to deal with a nationality. Because like I said, the nationality then gives you the right to elect. It brings you back into the constitutional fold. That's why we never heard about Noble Jew Ali and none of this until we got old. And now they create fake books. They create fake histories. Moore showed me this book, The Princess and the Prophet, and they got a picture of this dude who they say Noble Jew Ali on the cover. That ain't him. That ain't him. Then they say, oh, Noble Jew Ali was a Freemason. Where's the evidence of this? And how is it that this book, Princess and the Prophet, that y'all trying to hold up to try to defame the prophet, how is it that it's written by a black Hebrew dude? You know what I'm saying? Like, show me a book written by a Moor that say all of that, then maybe I might take you seriously. Until then, I don't accept what somebody with no nationality is talking to me about. Because if you don't got no nationality, that means you a subject. You an alien. You don't have no rights in this society. So why am I even listening to you? See, that's why they don't like the Moors, because that's what make us white. We start looking at it like that. Like, okay, if you think your freedom comes from you adopting a slave moniker, then I support you doing that. I'll support you being a slave if you think being a slave is going to make you free. Meanwhile, the rest of us, that's adults who want to take our places amongst the affairs of men, we know that having a free national name allows us to take our proper place in the society where, put it like this, how is it that Noble Jew Ali in the Moorish Science Temple of America, peace be upon him, back in the 1920s was able to get a so-called black man named Oscar the Priest appointed to the Senate, appointed to the Congress, at a time when so-called Negroes could not vote? How did he do that? How he do that? Nobody got any smoke for that though. Nobody know how to do that. Why you think they had to shut the whole Moorish Science Temple of America down and reorganize it by 1938 with a whole different complexion where they got rid of all of the civics in it? We didn't put any type of civics or law all the way up until like the 60s and the 70s. They made sure, they said, nah, we can't have this rolling like that. These Moors is doing too much. So how was he able to do that? Why? Because he was able to take the block vote of the temple as one complete body, as an ecclesiastical organization composed of international missionaries who are part of something called the Divine and National Movement, which is the organ back to the old Moorish Empire, which then put them under the treaty rights, the international treaty rights that still existed all the way from the surrender of Granada, all the way up until the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, all the way to the Moroccan Dahir, all the way up to the Act of Algarve or Al Jazeera, Al Jazeera's, and all the way up to, again, the article, the Algonquin Confederacy, i.e. the Great Lord Guyana, which again was comprised by the Algonquin, anything AL, anything MA, anything BE, BA, that's all Moorish. These are all Moorish names. Anasazi, that's a Moorish name. That's not an Indian name. The term Indian was labeled on them by the decommissioned so-called Roman Spanish to fall under the term Los Indios, meaning those outside of their God, meaning their pagan gods that we're not a part of. Also, Indus represents the Indus Valley, Indus, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro. So why ain't y'all Buddhists? Y'all Indian, how come y'all ain't Buddhists? Because that's what the Indus people was at the time. How come y'all ain't that? Because they want to be what they see on TV. They want to be one of these Indians with the teepees and all that stuff. When we was the Indians living in the castles, we was the Moors living, you understand? The monkeys and the Anasazis and the Talsalagi and all of that, those were the Moors. The corporate versions, the sellout versions was the Cherokee, was the Choctaw, was them type of people, Chickasaw. Because the term Choctaw come from Chata or Chata, right? The CH is a hard H because they were also Hebrew. So it's Chata. You know what I'm saying? Just like the Chartalagi, that's one way of saying it, or the Talsalagi. See what I'm saying? That's a T sound. So again, that's bringing you back to the ancient Phoenician aspect by which we all descend to. So you got the ancient Phoenicians, you got the ancient the ancient Canaanites, the ancient Fomorians, the ancient Phoenicians, the ancient Carthaginians. See what I'm saying? Then the ancient Mauritanians, then you got the Moors. Then from the Moors, you get all the subdivisions. And then finally we move into the modern era of the American Indian. So they just set tripping. They just choosing one ancestor over the next and acting like that's a good thing. But that's all. It's all a part of the same problems. Like I was saying with the deference thing. Is them trying to create fake laws and fake understandings and act like that's really true. And then trying to find and then cherry picking what information they're going to use to then try to disprove things that I've been saying for over 20 years. Half these dudes only found out about them even having any type of connection to this stuff in the past 10 years. I've been talking this since 1995, man. You know what I'm saying? Before the internet, in the real world, going to different places in the world under Moorish identity, Moorish culture, understanding this. And everybody, like I said, everybody else, when the rest of your people gonna wake up to them being Moors, they start showing me Moors in their family. Wow. They start taking me to places, showing me, oh, the Moors built this. The Moors built this temple. I'm in Japan, they showing me this. Wow. So you think I'm gonna just listen to one of these Negroes that's out here trying to, in their basement, talking about, oh, well, the Moors, they always telling me what the Moors aren't. Always telling me what the Moors didn't do. And the reason why I know it's false is because when I started this journey of researching ancient Moorish culture, Mauritanian culture, and all of that, I started from the hypothesis or from the perspective that we in America aren't Moors. So instead of trying to prove, okay, starting from the perspective of, oh, we Moors. No, I did it from the opposite. Let me find all of the proof that says that we're not this. And all I could find was the opposite. Wow. So that's why you can't tell me nothing. That's why I don't debate these not idiots. That's why I don't debate these people or try to call them out or whatever. Let them think what they want. I'm 51 years old, man. I don't got time to try to get a grown man to see a foregone conclusion. It's irrelevant.
I said, let me ask you this, because you brought up nationality many times. Do we have to sign paperwork to declare our nationality, especially now that we've had the deference and the republic is being restored? What are your thoughts on
as an individual? There's a way to do all of that. You know what I mean? But it's not half of the stuff that you hear on the internet about. It's a lot simpler and a lot more direct. If anybody wants to holler at me about that specifically, or you know what I mean, I usually talk to people like that privately, so that way because it works, I want to keep it as pristine as possible, as opposed to being one of these sites that where you just download paperwork and then you mail it to this person and then you wait for this to come back. And a lot of that is false. A lot of that is not even real. It's more real when you actively pursue it and do it in the proper manner that it's already laid out for you to do so. So between that and like I said, with the other aspect that they use to try to get away from this is the whole DEI and the ESG stuff, the diversity, equity, inclusion. That's all based upon the critical race theory. That's all used to kind of deter everybody from nationality. That's another scam. The economic social governance, that's the way that they try to employ it through corporations and stuff, to then create a quota system that's not based on merit, that's all based on color. We need one black, we need one gay, we need one woman, we need one Chinese, we need one this. We don't care if they know what they're doing. We just need them in there so that way we can get this ESG funding from the government, which is another form of denationalization, another form of destroying the meritocracy of our people to make us dependent upon the government. And it's another way to denationalize people and to create a way now, so that way now when people want to hire a melanated person or whatever, they feel like he's a diversity hire, so they don't want to do it because they know he's not qualified. He's only qualified based on that. That's why they got rid of affirmative action and got rid of the whole Roe versus Wade stuff and all that. So things are moving towards the time where people have to identify with themselves individually instead of socially, because that's what the republic is based on. The republic is the rights of the individual over the masses, and the masses of individuals come together to support the movement, as opposed to the democracy is the mob rule. You know what I'm saying? So all of this is a good thing.
So it is important, in your opinion, to establish or to have to declare a nationality.
Definitely, especially in the American governmental system, because it opens up more roles to you and it takes you out of the chattel Negro, black, slave, colored thing, and it allows you to deal more freely in both the public and the private sector, as opposed to being the subject to. You become a subject of. See, we Moors are subjects of things, not subject to things. See what I'm saying? So we become subjects of the American Republic, which again is a reorganization of the old Moorish Empire.
There we go. That's what I was wondering. So, but if the republic is being restored, why would you have to declare a nationality?
because you still got people like Biden and these Democratic people in here acting like controlling the levers of everything under a democracy side of it. So you have to say what you are, so that way they know what you aren't. See what I'm saying? So this way you're not just a voter, you're an elector. See what I'm saying? That's why the electoral college exists, even though people are voting. You see what I'm saying? Because the votes get funneled into the electoral college, and the electors, who are the silent majority, who are the people with nationalities in America, are the ones that push whatever's forward.
And so now, can you explain why we have a treaty of peace of friendship and what that is?
That is what allowed the United States to be recognized as a republic after it was reorganized from the confederation into the modern Republican form of government, as so written by the letter that followed that, which was the letter of George Washington to the Sultan. George Washington himself being the grandson of a Moor named Nicholas Maritou. You could look that up. Who was a French Huguenot, and the French Huguenots were Moors. So the picture that we got of George Washington may not even be real, because his grandfather Nicholas Maritou is your complexion.
Wow. Copper.
So, just like Jefferson was melanated, James Adams was melanated, Crispus Attucks was melanated, Ben Bay was melanated. They just want to make it seem like it was all white people, but they got to do that because that's how they reconstructed the history, when most of them pictures is fake.
We got another important question. We got a few minutes.
I got to wrap it up, though.
Okay. I'll answer this last question, then I'm. Okay. Isn't it changing your last name to Bay disrespectful to the ones?
No, because you're annexing the Bay or the Eel or the Day or the Al or the Ali or the Pasha. You're annexing that to your born name. So your tribal name and your national name work in tandem. So if I was John Smith, right? John Smith Bay, I'm John of the Smith Tsalagees of the Moorish nation or the Moorish clan of Bay. You see what I'm saying? So one represents me domestically, the other represents me internationally. So you don't change your whole name. You see what I'm saying? You keep the name of your honor, your mother, and your father, so your days may be long upon the lands the Lord has given you, which is this land. But you want to use the title that was given, the Il, which is like Elohim, the Bay, which is like Bayanu, the Al, which is like Allah, right? But not Allah, the pale Arab Allah, Allah being the arm, leg, arm, head, the spiritual visage of man. You know what I'm saying? The Pasha, which comes from Pahath, which is an old Hebrew term, and the Moab. So you add that to your name, but you choose one or the other.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So again, if you're John, then you would be John of the Smith Tsalagees or the Smith Pamunkeys or the Smith Chickahomies. You see what I'm saying? Of the Moorish clan of the Bay. So once they got rid of the Moorish thing, took the Ils and the Bays off, the so-called Moors who were left became so-called Indians and started using their last names as their national names. And that's what got them, why their names could then be usurped by the slaves that came over and adopted them.
Okay.
Because the international tie was then cut off. But now we're in a new day and time. And like I said, the congressional record of HJR 75, everybody can read it yourself, says that you have the right to annex and the usage and the customary usage of all of that, whether you choose to do it today or any time in the future. So that is what also insulated us from the bankruptcy thing and then brought us back into the Americanization or our true American nationality. Outside of all of the inferior governmental controlled, Roman DC titles such as Negro, African American, Black, American Indian, see what I'm saying? Colored, octoroon, quadroon, mandroon, Creole.
So is this the return of the Moorish dynasty?
Yeah, we're just waking up to what we've already been. Okay. And now things are opening up for us to be able to activate it. But it's not so much, I think, where we need to constantly throw it in somebody's face. It's just that if somebody want to constantly tell me what I'm not, I'm going to stand on what I am. And the more they tell me I'm not this, but then the people telling me this have no nationality. They are still talking all against this United States, but then they still listed as U.S. citizens. Meanwhile, my passport, even though it may look like a regular dude's, it's national because my free national name is on it. My headdress is on it, right? My associated documentation that I went to get it with have been verified and all of that. So when they run it on the card or the passport, they see that. And according to the law, U.S. if I was a U.S. citizen and not an American national, I wouldn't be able to have a title of nobility on my official document. I wouldn't be able to have no headdress on that. You got to have the right documentation to be able to do that. And once you provide that documentation, it shows and proves that you're a national. And as a national, an American national, you have rights, unalienable rights, as opposed to the privileges that citizens have.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You've given us a wealth of knowledge. We've been on 2 hours. I know you got to get back to your family and some other business. Thank you so much. I'm going to put up all your links right now, and I'll also in the chat, and I'll also put them in the description section for you all. Family, if you have learned anything, we appreciate this gentleman. Send a cash app here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
$. Yes, sir.
If you have any other questions, you can definitely hit me up at any of the links that they've given you, that the sister's given you. And I really appreciate you having me on the platform, sis.
It's been very much appreciated. God bless you. You all can find him. You can go ahead if you need to leave. I'll close it up.
Thank you.
Welcome. You've been a blessing to us. You can find Aseer Duke of Tears on YouTube. And I'll provide all the links for you. Please send him a cash app and a blessing. Islam to all the Moors. I hope you all really appreciate this. Islam to the whole family, the whole soul family, whatever your nationality is. We appreciate you. We love you so much. Now it's gone. You see how the noise is gone? Interesting. It was only on while we were chatting. If you enjoyed the show, then please let me know. If you didn't and you disagree with things, I'm okay with that too. I appreciate everything, that you all have to say. As long as it's respectful and within reason. Please give the brother a donation because he really educated us today. He gave us a lot of knowledge, a lot of information that many of us were not taught in school. So you can give him a donation at PayPal if you desire to. I'm going to put that in the comment section here. That was the Aseer Duke of Tears, he has a PhD in jurisprudence. You can send him a donation to PayPal here. Let me see. Or to what else? Cash App. But before I get you this Cash App, he has products, he and his wife, organic products, and I will have his wife on and talk to us about all natural organic skincare products and hair care products. And you can order from them at Cordoba. I think I already gave you his PayPal. Is it Cordoba Organics? Hold on. Yes, Cordoba Organics.com. I'll put it here in the chat for you. I have some of her skincare products and I love them. I love them. They moisturize your skin, is good for your hair. She has long, long locks, nourishing, healthy ingredients in them. So if you want to support he and his wife, you can go to Cordoba Organics and order from them. Let's see, if you want to get in contact with Aseer, because some of you were asking him questions. He didn't have time to answer all the questions because he did a phenomenal job of educating us for 2 hours straight. I'm so fortunate and blessed to know him. Yes, because he's indeed a master teacher. You can go to, somebody said they love her skincare products. You want to contact Aseer? You can go to Aseer, the Duke of Tears. Tears is TIERS.com. Aseer, the Duke of Tears.com. And that's right here on the screen. If you want to email him, And I've been getting emails from him and his channel for many years. You can go to dukeoftears@gmail.com right here. Ask him questions about anything privately that you could not ask in the chat, or that I wasn't able to answer or address in the chat. Let's see. You can also download this app. He has an app that you can download, he was telling me about. Oh, wait a minute. Let me see. Adopt app Google Play app, but I don't know what is to purchase. I have to ask him, what do we download this app to purchase? I'm not sure. You can purchase his book too. Can somebody put in the chat for me the name of his book? Islam Family. Yes, this was a very informative and knowledgeable show. I am so grateful to Brother Aseer. He has a book. Let me see if I can find his book on Amazon. At 5-star rating. Normally, I like to read books before I bring someone on the show, but it just kind of left my mind that he had this book. I completely forgot. Let's see. Here it is. The Dark Skull. I'll bring that up for you in a minute if you'd like to, or let's see. Present, share screen. Here's his book, The Dark Skull 418. It's written by Aseer, the Duke of Tears, or Aseer Ali Allah. It says the world's most dangerous comic book novel. Show me a hero and I'll write it for you. The Midnight Man, December 21st, 2012. All things came to an end. So do the illusions of the worlds around us. When that happens, something manifests in some people, something called the Dark Skull 418 effect. This is a mysterious force that allows one to see the world of what really is, even though it isn't. A scary thought for some and a deadly threat for others, particularly the powers that be. With the advent of this cultural phenomenon, the idea of total awakening in the American populace is reaching a critical mass. In a world where all conspiracy theories are turning out to be true, the world was waiting for a spark to ignite change that would thrust humanity into a next phase of evolution. Who would have thought it would start with a mixtape called the DS418? The mixtape was done by a deceased rapper named Corn Liquor. His rap group, Concrete Evidence, was the biggest revolutionary music group in history. So big they became a threat to the establishment and were targeted for extreme sanctions. It's now 2011. And since then, the NSA director, John Nathan R. President, has dedicated his time to tracing the movement of a subversive group that calls himself the Dark Skull 418. As the world heads towards a global financial war, there's a pervasive sense that this could really be the end of everything. And then it goes on for there. Now I better read this because this is getting good. Along with the NSA director, other secret factions for the Anglo establishment, like the Tholic Vril and the Breakaway Society, vie for control of what will be left after the rapture. NSA Director John Nathan R. President has dispatched two of his most trusted agents, Special Agent Moldy and Skalder. Their task is to create profiles on the subversive actions of the Dark Skull 418. What they uncover leads to strange findings, obtuse individuals, and an ancient secret. This is what the book is about. The first part of the journey leads them to the enigmatic Midnight Man, an international serial cop killer, the first man ever to be declared and profiled as a supervillain. With the appearance of the Comet of Doom hurtling towards the Earth, the Second American Civil War, racial tensions looming, satanic ritual celebrity murders, suicidal austerity, and the final showdown between China and the United States. The mystery of who and or what the Dark Skull 418 is becomes more and more elusive. The DS-418 will take you on a future historic super sci-fi fantasy ride, a place very familiar but totally new, a reality where nothing false can exist, a universe to be where reality is the new black. The Dark Scar 418, the world is most dangerous, the world's most dangerous comic book novel. Aseer wrote this book at July 4th. It was published. No, he wrote the book before that, but it was published July 4th, 2012. If you're interested in the book, wow, it's expensive. Oh, Lord, child. He didn't promote it. I'm promoting it. This out of my pay range. Let's see. So I'll talk to him about that, like how we can make this affordable. But it has 5 stars, 15 ratings, all 5 stars. Wow. Somebody, maybe there's another place you can find it where it's not as expensive, because somebody told me they have the book and that it was phenomenal. They read it. So there's got to be another place for us to get it. Candy says, right, Aseer? Contact him. He will respond. Thank you. Pebble says she will donate. The man is a phenomenal master teacher. He was acknowledged as a sheik. He does have a doctorate in jurisprudence. So please contact him. Again, I'll let you see at dukeoftears@gmail.com. I love you all so much, family. If you're interested in talking to him about anything that he spoke of, or if you're interested in the questions that I asked him about nationality, why is that important? dukeoftears@gmail.com. This was a phenomenal, phenomenal report. He gave a very detailed explanation of history, what the dynasty looked like before it was overtaken by a coup d'etat, how the republic is indeed being restored, and how the deep state is afraid of the Chevron deference and what that means for us. That was a whole lot of information to give us. And like you said, knowledge is freedom. I said I'm going to ask him about the price of the comic book. You never know why. Sometimes you can't set the prices of your books. I know I've set prices of my books, and Amazon changes them based on whether or not they want you to get the information. There are certain things that the people in power don't want you to know, like information about the deep state and different conspiracy theories, whether it's written in comic form or not. So they will make the price so high you can barely afford it, or you cannot afford it at all. Mary says, this is my first show and my first live, and I loved it so much, and I'm so blown away. Thank you, Sister Mary. Thank you. We will all be free very soon. Amen. I appreciate that. Then thank you for supporting the show. So again, if you enjoyed any information that he shared with us, Brother Aseer, then please feel free to send him a blessing via Cash App or PayPal. And I put down his PayPal link, but I'll put all of this in the description section as well. Yeah, if you want to see the Black Law Dictionary and the Black Law Book, some of those editions are very, very expensive, because true law is something that they want to keep away from the masses. But I hope you all have enjoyed the show. We certainly enjoyed Aseer, the Duke of Tears, and all of the people that we bring on the show. All of the guests have been a wealth of knowledge. We appreciate your time away from your family. We've been on for over 2 hours. I want to respect your time. I do respect your time, family. If you desire, again, to send him a blessing, Cash App, $DS418, and he'll really, really appreciate that. I love you all so much, family. I appreciate you listening to the show and donating. I appreciate you. Some of you have even donated to me, and I appreciate that. I didn't get to acknowledge some of you who donated today. I was so grateful because we've been talking about the takedown of the deep state for a while. Dr. Pruitt has. And I don't get paid, but you all do bless me. And so I appreciate that. And the creator is taking care of me. But if you do desire to give to Dr. Kia Pruitt, I thank you so, so much for, if you want to support the work that we're doing over here. And I want to acknowledge the people that blessed us today because you didn't have to. And sometimes during the show, I don't have the opportunity to do it. And then you bless me after the show. So, again, if you appreciate the information that Dr. Kia Pruitt gives you, then, or you want to support the work, you can send a Cash App if it's your pleasure to Mama Kia 13. That's what they call me back home, Mama Kia. They call me Mama Kia because I am a mother and a mother of many, many people. I was a mother of the church that my son started. I was a foster mom of many, many people. I can't even keep count. And I have a lot of mama energy. If I were to call myself a name or give myself an energy with which I identify, it would be mama energy. So I'm looking for the names of the people who supported me and who blessed me earlier today. I want to say thank you. Thank you, Sister Tia. I appreciate your offering. You've been so good to me and so kind. I appreciate you. Darling son, thank you very much for the gift. I am very, very grateful. Uh, David Quigley, aka John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr., thank you so much. You're a great supporter of the show and you bless me often. So thank you. Sister Sabrina, thank you for blessing me and supporting the show and giving me a gift offering, a monetary gift. Lydell, thank you, my darling. I appreciate you so much. Sister Elizabeth, God bless you. Heaven smile on you. And may God's favor shine on you and your family and grant you with prosperity and peace. Sister Elizabeth, Sister Deborah, thank you so much. Sister Sitota, thank you. Brother Al Malik Bay, thank you so much. The Lassiter Bay family, God bless you. Dr. Hart, Pastor Hart, thank you. The Knudsen family, I appreciate you. Ellis, thank you so much. Chris, thank you. Dina, God bless you. Michael, thank you. Dennis, thank you. And so many others. Rhonda, Linda, and many, many others. Now I'm getting into the older blessings. So I appreciate you. I am very, very grateful for all of the blessings that you all have given me. Gratitude to you all. Somebody says this was a very deep conversation today. I agree. The information that he shared was so in depth that I'm going to have to do a replay, rewind this, and listen to it over. I'm not going to even double speed. I cannot fast speed this. Sometimes on the videos, if I go, long, then feel free to, go by you can speed it up by 1.25 or 1.5 or double speed it. But today, I'm not going to be able to do that with all of the information that he gave us. Not today. Thank you for the blessing, Sister Tiffany. I appreciate you. As Disa, or Adisa, as Disa. Thank you so much for the Cash App blessing. You guys are still pouring in blessings. Sister Mary says, I am 56 years old and all this learning truth makes me feel like a kid again. Thank you. She says, thank you. You're welcome. It is my great pleasure. So I am so honored that you all spent your evening with me tonight and took the time to listen to this podcast. We were talking about how we, the people, shall rise again. Our sovereignty is being restored by having our republic to be restored. So we needed to know that it is really happening and that the deep state is afraid of the Chevron doctrine and the Supreme Court overturning that doctrine and also granting President Trump immunity. So they're going to try to use many scare tactics. What I would encourage you to do today, the video is up on Rumble and YouTube right now. Download it because we talked about a lot of things that YouTube may not appreciate. I already had one video removed the other day when I talked about some of the malpractices that occurred in the 2020. And then I went into John Fitzgerald Kennedy Jr. and I talked about his book and how he says he's the real JFK Jr. I don't know. When I went into that information, I guess they told me it was at that point around that time that I was giving some information that they didn't approve of. So download the video, save it for yourself, just in case you need to go over this history, and they might take that video down. But it will also be uploaded on Rumble at the Dr. Kia Pruitt Show. So I hope that this has been a very good, I understand, a very good show for you. Some people are saying they don't know. I'm looking at you, Sister Mary, saying you don't know what to think about Trump. You don't know if you should support him. I'm having a hard time trusting him. I get it, because Republican, Democrat, both parties have been fooling us for many years. The deep state has done a lot of things against we the people. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the senior, said that there was a plot. There's a plot in this country to enslave every man, woman, and child. Before I leave this high and noble office, I intend to expose this plot. So I can understand why, we don't know who to trust these days. What I will say is that whoever's playing the role of Trump, in my opinion, seems to be against the deep state, mainstream media, and all of these entities that coalesced against us. But we do know they have a deep state version of him, and many, many different versions of him, actually. So they will replace certain people. They will bring people on with masks. They have clones of many people. And I've known this from studying what's going on in Hollywood and talking to some of the actors' children who were sold into sex trafficking. But this book really highlights what goes on at the highest level in the cabal, Stolen Identity by JFK Jr. So I would encourage you to read that book. But as many people are saying that, it's a bunch of actors before us, but the only person we've heard speak against the cabal, the deep state, is the person that is Donald Trump, or Drumpf, as Aseer, the Duke of Tears, called him. So that's it, family. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. I love you all so much. People are saying they read Stolen Identity. Yes, and they see, what do you see, Malkai, I'm sorry, Malkai, I want to say your name properly, says, I read the book Stolen Identity by John F. Kennedy Jr., and I cried. It made me angry. I think everybody should read it. Absolutely. It's an amazing book. You can get it on Amazon for $17.99 right now. He's going to come back on the show possibly at the end of this week. I'll talk to him tomorrow, and we might have other children of actors, politicians, etc., who were sold into sex trafficking, and children that some of the people in Hollywood allegedly do not claim on the show if they decide to come. So stay a part of the family. Like the video, please subscribe to the channel, share the video, and I would greatly appreciate it. Chief Max says, control opposition. You never know what's going on. So I would say operate in your sovereignty, because it doesn't matter what anybody in governments do, or anybody in politics does, I should say. You are sovereign. So we have to learn how to operate in our sovereignty and grow our own food, educate our own children, start our own schools. My sister-in-law started a school in her basement. And then when we had the money, she went to the YMCA, the Young Men's Christian Association, and rented out space there. And then one of her brothers, my brother-in-law, had excellent credit. He bought a building, and we created a church in the building. And then we had a daycare and a school. But we started off with nothing, just in her basement with her children and my children. We had 7. We called them 7 from heaven, and even started a group with them singing, because my husband, God bless it, rest his soul, was a phenomenal musician, and he taught all of our children how to sing and play many instruments. So my children, who are now in their 30s, have been playing instruments since they were like little children. And by the time they were like 8, 9, and 10, they were playing for churches. By the time they were like 10, they were ministers of music, bringing home money. So we taught them music, art. My husband was also an artist. I had graduated with a degree in counseling, a master's degree in counseling, and a bachelor's degree in an interdisciplinary degree where I put together a whole bunch of disciplines: sociology, psychology, economics, and political science, and created my own program. That was my undergrad degree. Then I got a master's in counseling, then a master's in leadership studies. And while I was doing all that, I was working for my sister-in-law's school. And she said, "I want to pay you more than what they would pay you with your credentials." So she got grants, loans. She wrote her own grants and paid me to work in her school. My husband's sister, God rest her soul. My mother-in-law, her mother had a bachelor's degree and master's education in education, and she taught in the school whenever she could. My husband taught art and music in the school. And her husband, my sister-in-law, Darlene Cartwright, God rest her soul, her husband, David Cartwright, taught in the school. He, at the time, was working on his PhD in engineering. But we said, you know what, we might be working on education, but we're not going to just focus only on our degrees. We're going to focus on our children, and we'll work on our degrees part-time. And he taught them algebra, calculus, trigonometry as wee little babies, engineering, CAD, AutoCAD, all that. They were children. We introduced them to the congressmen and women in our state. At the time, we lived in Ohio, and then we moved to West Virginia because her husband, my sister-in-law's husband, and I were both working on degrees. And we moved to West Virginia from Ohio, so we moved to school there. Introduced them to congressmen and women, and we had our children to be pages for the congressmen and women, so they would serve them water and go run errands for them while these congressmen and women were conducting business and writing laws. We created all type of programs for them during the school, after school, and during the summers. So they were learning engineering. They were learning. I also have many credits towards a degree in journalism. I taught them, and we put them in journalistic programs. We took them to different field trips. They sang all over the country, 7 from Heaven, and then it expanded. They had their own group. My nieces and nephews and our 4 children at the time, the 7 of them, sang all over the country. They had their own band, their own group. And our school, we had our children in school first, then we had more of our family members, more of my children's cousins, and then we expanded out to the community. And it became a school, like a big school that was doing so well that when our children took the standardized tests that were required at that time, they blew everybody else out of the water. Their scores were so high, they couldn't believe it, the school administrators. That's what happens when you educate your own children. You pour into them what you have. And some of the curriculum that we use was the same curriculum that the schools use, because at the time, back then, you had to use some of their curriculum. We said, okay, no problem. But we taught our children Marva Collins' Creed, and we started that every day with Marva Collins' Creed. Marva Collins started a school in Chicago. But we taught them the Creed. And the Creed was very empowering. I'm seeing if I could find it. Yeah, here it is. They had to say it every morning. I think this is just the first part of it. And I bet you if I brought my children who are in their 30s right now in front of you all, they know the Creed. I'm trying to see if I can find it for you. We taught them the school's curriculum and our curriculum. And we took them on field trips. I'm just saying all this to say that you can teach your own children. We're going to have to learn how to do that anyway. So let me show you the Creed that we taught our children in our school. It was a science and math preparatory school. Her husband is an engineer. He's still a college professor to this day, Dr. Cartwright. This is the creed that we taught our children. Nobody could tell us what we could and could not teach our children. Well, they told us that we had to teach part of their curriculum, so we did it, and then we taught them our own. Society will draw a circle that shuts me out, but my superior thoughts will draw me in. I was born to win if I do not spend too much time trying to fail. I can become a citizen of the world if I do not spend too many energies attempting to become local. I will ignore the tags and names given me by society since only I know what I have the ability to become. I will continue to let society predict, but only I can determine what I can, will, or cannot do. Failure is just as easy to combat as success is to obtain. Education is painful and not gained by playing games. But I have seen failure to destroy millions with promised hopes and broken dreams. While I have the opportunity, I shall not sit on the sidelines bitter with despair and wish later that I had become a literate lifter of this world instead of a failing leaner. I will use each day to the fullest. I promise that each day shall be gained, not lost, used, not thrown away. Yet it is my privilege to destroy myself if that is what I choose to do. I have the right to fail, but I do not have the right to take my teacher and other people with me. God made me the captain of only one life, my own. Therefore, if I decide to become a failure, it is my right. We were all promised the pursuit of happiness, and that is what I must do, pursue happiness and success for myself. No one can give it to me on a proverbial platter, and no one will care as much about me as I care about myself. But I must be willing to accept the consequences for that failure. And I must never think that those who have chosen to work while I played, rested, and slept will share their bounties with me. I will wave proudly my flag, signifying that I'm a failure by choice. But I will never envy those who have selected to wave their unfurled banners announcing their success. My success and my education can be a companion which no misfortune can depress, no crime can decry, no enemy can alienate, no envy or names can hurt me. Education and success can be a lifetime solace. It guides goodness. It gives at once grace and a genius to governments, communities, cities, townships, villages, homes, and palaces. Without education, what is a man? A splendid slave, a savage, a beast wandering from here to there, believing whatever they are told. God is not some cosmic bellboy who comes at my beck and call. If I want to achieve, the first step must be my own undertaking. Likewise, if I want to fail, that too is my choice. Time and chance comes to us all. Whether I decide to take that time and chance is indeed my own choice. I can either be hesitant or courageous. Life does indeed maroon the hesitant and inspire the brave. I can swiftly stand up and shout, "This is my time and my place." I will accept the challenge, or I will let others make my decisions for me. Creed by Dr. Marva Collins, who created her own school in the city of Chicago. That is the creed that we taught our children. So I said all that to say that you can educate your own children. And then if you don't know how, like Sister Harvetta Lassiter Bay, they've been homeschooling their children for 10 years. If you don't know how or you cannot, why not look at the teachers that decide they don't want to be a part of the school system, or look at somebody else in your community who does have the credentials, or even they may not have the credentials that were ordained or the state says that you have to have, but maybe they just have the wherewithal, the knowledge, the tools, and the willingness to teach the children. Why not hire them? Love Being Nubian says, if your grandparents still are they still with you, talk to them and take notes on what they tell you. So everything is crashing down. I would say that it's a good idea to think about how we're going to take care of our own children, our own family members. Hi, Mary. Look up Marva Collins if you haven't heard of her, and how we can take care of each other. Yes, yes, that is a very powerful, powerful creed that we taught our children, and they had to know it by heart. So when we say, "What's the creed?" they had to just spit it out, no matter where we were. But every day before school started, we had them to recite Marva Collins's creed, and we taught them at a very high level so that by the time my children were like in fifth grade, sixth grade, they already knew trigonometry, calculus, advanced math. Because again, my sister-in-law's husband he's an engineer. He has a doctorate in engineering. He's a professor of a university. So we taught them, and then in the summertime we had our own programs, and then I sent them to programs. So you can look at universities in your community if you're so inclined, and see what type of after school programs. Many of them don't cost, many of them are free. What type of after school program, not after school, but summer education enrichment programs. Look in the outreach office, educational outreach office of the universities that are near you. So because my brother-in-law worked for the university and I was attending the university, we already knew what those programs were. We created our own, and then later on, sometime I would send my children to some of these other uh, education enrichment programs in the summertime. I kept my children very busy. And again, their father taught them music, so they were playing music and playing musical instruments for churches, for themselves. They had their own band. My husband had a band. And my husband also had his own business where he did stucco. It's a type of, I don't know what you call it, element, or what do you call it? It's a type, something that they put on the buildings. And it kind of reminds me of what you see in, he called it Ephes, I think he called it. I don't know but it reminds me of those buildings in California. But anyway, he had his own business. He did construction, and his specialty though was his special thing that they would put on the outside of buildings that would keep them from being inundated with rain. And so since he had that business, he employed our children from the time they were children all the way up into their early adult years. And then he got very sick. So we did that not only for our children, but also for children in the community. So I'm just saying, family, that we're going to have to find a way to take care of each other. I do see 700 people in the chat. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Yes, the mantras help break generational curses. Absolutely. That's so amazing. All of our children need this education. Mary says, my daughter is 39 with CP, and they never taught her to read. I have been. She can read Redfish, Bluefish by Dr. Seuss. So what did these teachers do? Absolutely. Stucco concrete, something like that. I think it is. Like, yes. And what did we do before we had these schools that are funded by the Rothschilds and the elite so-called bloodline families? You just taught your children what you knew, or you created a school in your community, like a one-room schoolhouse. And maybe you put it in a church. And you educated them with the information that you knew, right? They also worked in the farms with the family or whatever family business you had. You taught them to read and write. But my stepdad had a fourth grade education, and yet he had, God rest his soul, before he passed, he had businesses all his life. He owned restaurants and employed his whole family with a fourth grade education, and did very well. He did very well. He and my mom didn't stay together, but trust me, he did very well. And if I needed something, I could ask him before he transitioned. fourth grade education, and he employed nephews, cousins, uncles, aunts. He was the one that created the boss sauce that people use for barbecue. And they kept telling them to patent it, and he didn't, and somebody else patented it. Dr. Kia, will the school hours also be shortened along with the work hours? I think so. I think school, because work hours will be shortened from 40 hours to 20 hours a week with Nasara and Jasara. So it only makes sense that school hours will be shortened, but I will look into that because I'm not completely sure. This is my opinion. You love that sauce. Yeah, my stepfather created the boss sauce. Western education is indoctrination, so it's in our best education. Thank you, Chief, to educate our own children. When we create, Judah Forever Kingdom says, or have, or establish, or become our own kingdom of. Oh, when will we create, or have, or establish, or become our own kingdom or a nation? Why cannot we unite today? Yes, let's unite, family. We can do what it is that we desire to do, what we will to do. There's an old saying that says, the moment you make up your mind, the universe conspires to assist you. So let's create our own schools. Let's create our own shops to make clothes. Let's create our own shoe repair shops. Let's create our own bakeries. Let us create our own educational institutions, and so on and so forth. Let's support the local farmers. Let's create our own banking system. If you're interested in silver and gold, why not get silver and gold? If it's in your budget. And if it's not, don't worry about it. We are returning to the gold standard, and we will be okay. So if you want to create your own banking system, I would say pull your money together and have a bank in the family. You be the banker. I have a son who we used to call the bank because he was so good with money. And then my brother-in-law, the one who bought us the building for the church, daycare, and school, where we did all that in one church, his credit was so phenomenal, and he has such a respect for money that he was literally the bank of the family. And he had a factory job but he's worked it for over 30, I think over 30 years now. Yeah. Started when he was in his early 20s. So if you're interested in silver and gold, contact Miles Franklin. Call 952-929-7006 for those who asked for this number, or email info@milesfranklin.com and let our brokers know when you call them that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you, so you can get the best prices in the industry. Chief Max says operating in trust. The first, all operating in trust is start to becoming your own trust. I guess the beginning of operating in trust is to become your own trust. Chief Max said he's going to come on and talk to us more about that very, very soon. Oh, yes. Sister Rhea says, Dr. Kia, not just silver and gold. How about copper, palladium, and rhodium? I love that. Yes. Yes. Any way you'd like to have your own, start your own bank would be amazing. Thank you, sister. Sister Mary says, my son is also very good at money. Med beds are available according to Pascal Najad. The entire earth is now a republic. Yay! Paris, France is the capital. What? Thank you so much. All statutes are deleted, replaced by military codes. This was a great video, Alhambra said. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And Alhambra says, thank you, Dr. Kia. You are more than welcome. I appreciate that. So I see you all speaking to each other. Jojo says John Rich, the country singer, started his own bank. Wow. That's awesome. Chief Max says our rulership, government, and inheritance will not be televised. Well, family, I have really enjoyed this. All the animals, Rhonda says, teach their own. Woo! It is discouraged among our species or our people to teach our own. Wow. Thank you, Sister Rhonda. That was deep. Mary says, I love this stuff. Thank you all in the chat. Y'all are so great, Mary says. I love it. Get back street to bartering. We need to get back to bartering. Yes. If we barter with one another, I'll give you some tomatoes if you fix my car, then we will be okay. We won't need people, Walmart, because we'll be helping each other right in our own communities. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. I love you, Return 88. Return 88 says, we love you, Dr. Kia. Thank you so much. I love you as well. Judah Forever Kingdom says that if we're already a nation, why aren't we printing out our own dollar or black dollar? Good question. Sister Mary says, my husband is a plumber and I can cook. There you go. We need plumbers. So we can go to Sister Mary and say, can you please cook for my family, serve? Can you create a restaurant in exchange for me to educate your children? Can your husband come and work on my plumbing? And I'll, in exchange, do your hair or give you some herbs. Why not? The trolls left after Aseer departed, Gary said. Wow, they were the ones causing the static. No wonder. No wonder. That's crazy. Thank you so much for that. I was wondering what was going on. We are the banks, Chief Max says. The wealth is coming from us that the banks enrich themselves with. That's how we do it, bartering with one another. When you barter with one another and you do business with one another and exchange with one another, you won't need the government. What do you need the government for? What do you need these big stores for? What do you need these chain restaurants for? We can feed each other. Why not? Why not get back to that? I miss those days of going down the street to the person who helped raise me in the community to have them to fix our shoes. I miss going to the corner store where his children and I went to school together. I miss going to the doctors and the nurses who were in the community. I miss going to the school where the teachers all grew up together in our community. And if you cut up in school, guess what? Back in those days, we got paddled. We got spanked by teachers in elementary school. And I bet you one thing, kids didn't cut up like they do today. There was no having sex in schools. There were no drugs in schools. None of that when I was in school. Not in elementary school. I don't remember in the middle school. Maybe it happened by the time I was in high school. I don't know. My mother had such a tight rein on me that I wasn't going to do any of that anyway, and never did. So I got married at 18. I didn't want to even explore all this other stuff that was going on in the world. And have my children by my husband because I didn't want to be out here trying to figure out if this man is good, that man is good, and give my body this person, that didn't work out, my body, that person, that, nope. I get married at 18. I'm not telling anybody else to do that. I'm saying what I did. Chief Max says Walmart equals martial law. Wow. Return 88 says, Dr. Kia, you have helped so many. Oh my God, that makes me feel good. Thank you to know that I'm fulfilling my purpose. No more borders. Wealth is for all. Love now replaces fear. Yes, yes. Jojo says, my poor husband has been working like a dog since 15 and he's turning 61 on Thursday. Would love a little more sunshine and relaxed time. We need a break, family. We are tired of all of the stuff we've been through. So let's keep our energies up. We don't need the government. Sister Mary says all energy between us and us alone. We keep it between us. We can do great things. Government can go. And I'll add, they can kick rocks. Wellness by Intention says, and our own civic schools we should have, she said. Wellness says, thank you. I like that. Power to the people, Chief Max says. That's right. David says he's out of here. Good night. Good night, my darling. I'm just reading comments now since the live is over because I'm enjoying you all. So again, if you enjoyed Aseer, the Duke of Tears, send him a blessing. The man was on a roll, wasn't he? He was on fire. He was going into detail, giving us true history about America, what had happened, what's going on now, and what will happen in the future to some extent. You can contribute to him, I see the Duke of Tears, by sending a cash app to $DS418. He would greatly appreciate it. He is a husband and a father. He is a teacher. And I believe in supporting those who come to the channel and help us and give us instruction and teach us and educate us and prepare us for the future. So that is his cash app. $DS418 if you desire to bless him. I'll put all his links in the chat because some of you have expressed that you desire to contact him and ask him more questions. And somebody from the chat said he does indeed answer you back. That's good to know. If you were here, you saw that, greetings to you too, family, that I asked him a question about nationality. He said he answers those questions in private. So give him a chat, a call, and I will put his information in the description section for you. I've already placed it in the chat. I still see 700 people in the chat. Hit the like button, family. He was on fire. Aseer Duke of Tears was on fire today. Spread the video. Judah says, I am a massage teacher for over 25 years. Oh, you can instruct others. Yes. Does becoming a national open your trust to you? Sister Ria asks. I would say contact Aseer, the Duke of Tears, because I know a little bit about nationality, but not enough to teach it. So please reach out to Aseer, the Duke of Tears, and we're going to have him to come back on when he gets the time. I'm going to put up his information for you, sister. And then Chief Mac may come on at some point when he gets the time to talk more about operating in trust. Here's Aseer, the Duke of Tears number for you, Sister Ria. I mean, not his number, but his Gmail. So you can contact him and ask some questions like that. We have 698 people in the chat. Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Chief Mac says he changed his status. All right. Wellness by Intention says, Dr. Pruitt, I thank the Most High for your erudition and the Dukes. The law of gratitude is my duty, my duly invoked. I love you so much. Thank you. And Mary says, I'm so glad to meet you all. Mary, it's an honor to meet you. Thank you for being here. I think you said you're new to the channel. It's your first live. I am so appreciative for you joining the show. And thank you for asking questions and participating in the chat. We welcome that. You are a part of our soul family. We meet here very often. Now I'm starting to do these every day. These lives every day because I enjoy doing it and it's my calling, and I miss you all when I don't do it. So again, if you want to contact Aseer, here's his information, dukeoftears@gmail.com. I see you all talking to each other. You can send him a blessing, a love offering here, $DS418. To support his work. It takes a lot. Do you know it? Did you hear all those books he was just rambling off at the top of his brain, and all that information and dates, times, people, historical facts? And he did it in a timeline of succession. That means he's taken thousands of hours and years to read, study, to understand and understand it for himself, and enough to be able to teach it. That was phenomenal. So if you can support his work, send him a blessing, please, to $DS418. He would greatly appreciate it. And I will have his wife to come on as well to talk about her products, skincare, hair care, all organic, all healthy. Rachel says, I shared your morning video with over 40 or 50 people. Thank you so much, sister. You are such a great teacher. I have been a massage therapist for 42 years and grateful to be able to barter at times. I know that's right. So that's a blessing. If you all need a masseuse and y'all want to barter, contact Rachel Rose. You can leave your information in the chat, sister, if you'd like to. Love Being Nubian says, yes, I would love to get the titles of those books that he mentioned. So, family, please look over the video. How do you say it? Rewind the video or replay the video and listen to all the books that he was able to ramble off. I don't want to say ramble, but utter at the off the top of his head. Historical books giving us information. I thought that was beautiful. So that's it, family. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. We've been on for almost 3 hours. I'm hungry. I know you all probably are too. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you took a lot of notes. Please record the video, download it. If you haven't recorded it, store it away in case it's taken off of YouTube, because they did remove one of my videos the other day. And this is the third channel, I believe, YouTube channel that I've started. They've taken away 2 other channels, but you know what? To whom much is given, much is required. God has given me this mission, this passion to come here to share knowledge and information with you all, to share joy and love and peace, and to bring on people who will do the same. So I am so happy that you all indulge me and allow me to give you this information. Sister JoJo said, go and enjoy your late dinner. Thank you, Sister JoJo. That's it, family. If you desire to support Dr. Kia Pruitt's work, you can send in a love offering to Cash App, $ Mama Kia 13. That's $ MAMAKIA 13. And that's it for this evening. I am tired. I am hungry. Chief, I'm going to give you a call. You know, I try to call you every night if I can. Family, I love you so much. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I trust that I said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Go sleep well, family, and safe travels in your dreams tonight. We should have some news in the upcoming days, because Tuesday is a day that they love to make good special announcements. So let's see what happens tomorrow and Wednesday and in the days to come. Any news that I hear coming out, I'll be sure to break it as quickly as I can and come on and share it with you. So that's it, family. Good night. Sleep well and have a wonderful evening. Mwah. I love you.